The government do not need your permission for waking up my people underneath these harsh conditions, hitting us with each and every satanic invention. Children of affliction, may I please have your attention? Fluoride in our water system, food lacking the nutrition. History repeats and this is simply their rendition. Propaganda, lies and slander is the makeup of their mission. Prostitution of our gifts for the rich ass, the rich ass. Why are people dying in the trenches? The trenches focus off the suspect cause we suspect suspicion. But in the end we win through the Lord of our redemption. Time is growing nearer, don't you hear the clock ticking? So help a brother in need to be counted in the flock as one of the sheep. Help as many as you can, we're going fishing deep water. So give us grace, Father.
Welcome in, everyone. Locked into the Search Engine International. I'm your host, Brother Gocc, bringing everybody here for another week. This week's topic, paganism. All right? What is paganism? When did it start, paganism? Who are the practices of paganism in the earth today? Joining me in the studio, I have Steve, who's a high priest, and I also have John, also who's a high priest. I'm gonna bring them in just in a minute, and then I'll let them introduce themselves as we go on to the show. And if you're listening via Skype, you can also partake on the show via Skype. What else? Let me see. Yes, the listeners in the UK. I want to say hello to them down in London, Bradford, and Manchester. The listeners down there in Jamaica who tuning in as well. And oh yes, another bulletin. We had a sister today in Manchester who met in an accident. Got hit down by a car, and asking for everyone if to send some prayers out for the young sister. All right, and yeah, that's it. So without further ado, let's get the ball rolling. All right, let me bring him in. Is it Steve?
Yes, this is Steve. Merry meet.
I'm here in the clearly, man. How you doing?
Doing okay. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. My name is Brother Gocc.
Gocc, okay. I also go by Juve, but I'm not going to make anyone else pronounce that.
Juve.
Steve is fine.
Okay, Steve. All right, and we also have John.
Yes, hello. My name is John.
Hi, John. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you for inviting me to your show. Merry meet, brothers.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem. What I'm going to do, right, I'm going to let Steve introduce himself real quick. And then after that, John, then you can do the same, okay?
Yes.
All right, Steve, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I'm the high priest of Coven Oldenwild. It's a Wiccan coven in Asheville, North Carolina. I'll spell it for you. It's Oldenwild, Oldenwilde, and that's .org if anybody wants to look it up. But we've been in existence since 1995 here, and we're open public witches in the southeastern U.S., so sort of in the heart of the Bible Belt. And that brings forth a lot of stories, which maybe for later on. But we do a lot of civic activism here and try to educate people in the beauty and the antiquity and the validity of what we call the old religion.
Okay. All right. Is that it, Steve?
Yeah, well, I can mention my high priestess is Lady Passion, but she's unfortunately not able to be with us this evening. We do usually, most covens are run by a high priestess and a high priest. So I'll just mention that real quick.
All right, let me get this right. Are you the one who won't be joining us for the full duration of the show?
Yes, I will. Yeah, she's unfortunately not able to be here this evening, but sends her best wishes.
Okay, will you be on for the full duration, or do you have to go early as well?
No, I can be here for the full shot.
All right, man, that's a good one. All right, then we're gonna get back to that. Is it John?
Yes.
How you doing, John?
Very good, thank you. So my name is John. I am also a high priest of a coven. We call ourselves Golden Thread Grove Church, and we also link that with the ATC, as we are charter members of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, headquartered in Index, Washington. mission of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church is to bring these little covens and these little autonomous groups together as one big organization, giving us validity and strength of numbers and solidarity. Worldwide, we have organizations through the ATC in many countries.
Okay.
So Golden Thread Grove is an autonomous working coven. We have open circle meetings every week where anybody is welcome to come and attend. We have a prison ministry. We have a lending library. We offer service to our community in that way, again, trying to bring honor and service to the old gods and to show the world that people that practice paganism today, people that venerate the old gods and the old ways, are your neighbors and just as normal as anyone else in the world. And
okay, let me ask you, is it non-profit?
It is non-profit, yes.
Okay then. So where did you get your funding from?
Where did I get what?
Where do you get your funding from?
From members. From members and contributors. Myself and my wife are the high priest and high priestess of this organization. We do have a store here, a metaphysical store called Crone's Cupboard. We're here in Boise, Idaho.
Right.
And we do donate and support the church quite a bit, offering space and making contributions to supporting that. But our funding comes from our members.
Okay then. So let me ask the question. What is is it Wiccan? Wicca? What is it? What is that?
Well, Wicca is the name of our religion, and a Wiccan is a person who practices it. It's more or less synonymous with witchcraft, and it's a type of paganism.
Okay.
So we are basically a polytheistic nature religion, which means we consider nature sacred, and we believe in and honor more than one god, more than one goddess.
Right.
Most of us. Now, anything I say is going to be applying to most Wiccans. We're very autonomous groups. There's no one big central, Wiccan central, like with the Roman Catholic Church. So yeah, it's all, but it's basically we pretty much all hold a shared feeling that this is the right and the natural path for us.
Right. Well, I just heard you said you refer to yourself as a church, right?
No, we don't call ourselves a church. Many other groups do. Although we are also like John's group, we're also a nonprofit, and we're legally a legal religious nonprofit here in North Carolina, but also like theirs, we just subsist on donations as far as that goes. There's no grand secret funding source, unfortunately, unless he knows of one and wants to tip me off.
Right. So tell me, you say you worship more than one God, yeah?
That's correct, yeah. And most people that come to the craft, they've experienced different gods and goddesses, or they've had experiences that make them kind of question the kind of the standard ideology that I sometimes call monopoly monotheism, the idea that there's only one God and only one way, and only one way to that truth and that God. Some people, like our particular coven, our main deities, the ones we revere most highly for ourselves, are Hecate, the old witch goddess, and the horn god, which some call Hern, and unfortunately some people confuse with the devil, which is completely wrong, and I'm sure we'll be getting into that at some point.
Okay then. So tell me something. In a country like America, then, for argument's sake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say America is what you refer to as a monotheist country, or would you call it a pagan country, then, so to speak, worshiping more than one God?
I'd call it a pluralist country. It's written into the very first amendment of our Constitution, freedom of religion. So it means, for instance, like last week when that whole world scandal erupted about the video denigrating Muhammad. A lot of people protesting in other countries didn't understand why the U.S. government was letting that video be circulated. Well, they couldn't take it down because that's part of our, belief here in America. It's got freedom of religion, even if it offends people. You're still free to express it.
Right.
So that's a key thing here.
Right. So what religion would you say they practice in America? For example, the Christians over there now. What do you think? What religion do they practice? Because I see a lot of what you call pagan traditions within the religion Christianity.
Well, in fact, you delve deep enough into the roots of any religion, and that's what you're going to find is what I call the natural religion.
Hold on, Steve. Hold on. I hear John wants to comment on that.
Yeah, can I jump in here just a moment, please?
This, sure.
Yes,
I think that we need to start by defining what is paganism.
Okay, then. What is it?
Well, I believe that paganism, as it's defined today, is earth-based spirituality.
Okay.
The word, by my understanding, comes from the meaning country dwellers, people who lived in the rural parts in relationship with the land, like the farmers, almost like we would, almost derogatory when it started to be used a lot, like we would use the term redneck. Those people who are backwards and live in the countryside and aren't up with the times like us in the cities.
Okay.
And then the word, through its usage, started to take on the meaning and the implication that if one was pagan, then they were godless. They had no faith. They had no belief, which is a misconception and not true.
Okay.
And many of these folk traditions and these elder spiritual practices of the indigenous peoples of the world have been ritualized and customized where they've fallen into the space of tradition, and then they've been picked up by the next group coming along and adapted into the modern holidays and celebrations and traditions that we have today in their many forms and faces.
Okay, and who are these people are we referring to? Call names.
All people. So in America, we practice Christmas, which is largely, most people think, a Christian holiday, but it has its roots and its traditions going back long before the Christ. And the evergreen trees and the lights, it has always been a celebration of the return of the light upon the earth and the child of light and the child of hope and promise, long before Master Jesus ever walked this earth.
Right.
So, and John's right, and you look at Easter also, and that's the dawn of the year, just like the dawn of the day. It's even named in English after a pagan goddess of the dawn, Eostra. And the more you look into so many of the traditions around Jesus, you'll realize that there are also traditions around the sun, the solar deities. So again, Easter.
Let me ask, how comes modern Christians can't pick up on this?
How come what?
How comes modern day Christians cannot pick up on this fact?
Well, because it's what I call one-way onlyism. It's this idea, and it's not just confined to Christianity, but it's this idea that there is absolutely only one way to the truth, and it's got to be through this one person's interpretation of this one holy book that came from this one source, and they just it's like having blinders on. You can only see what you're allowed to see. I think with I know a lot of fundamentalist Christians who just refuse to read anything that hasn't been pre-approved by their particular church.
Okay.
And it goes a step further too, Steve, in that my way is the only way, and my interpretation is the only correct interpretation. And even though we're using the same book and working with the same deity, my way is the right way, and you got it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's very self-centered.
And what books are you referring to now?
From a Christian standpoint, I'm referring to the Bible.
Okay, the Bible. So what are your views on the Bible?
It's a great story. It's a wonderful myth.
Okay.
It contains many things that we recognize from many other pagan myths and stories, and but we have, I think, most pagans and Wiccans see kind of a conflict, for instance, when
you say it has many stories and myths in it, I'm taking that you have actually read it then.
Oh yes.
Well,
yeah, most Wiccans and pagans are very well read. You'll tend to have a lot of scholars in our midst.
Okay, so you have read the Bible then?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can inject in here, I think dominantly from a dominant religion perspective, the United States is a Christian country, and many of us practicing Wiccans and pagans of all different traditions have grown up with a Christian background and a Christian foundation. So we've all been introduced to the Bible. We all know those stories. And even if we grew up in a household where that wasn't practiced, there's no way culturally you can get away from that teaching and that learning, that worldview.
Well, why I asked you the question, right, is because why I asked you that question is because you said you've read it, right? And then later on into the show, I'm gonna try and go into that a little bit, okay?
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna try and go into the Bible based on the fact that you have actually read it. You understand me? Because I know there are a lot of people out there who claim that they have been reading the Bible and they read it, and I know that you know. But being that you said you have, we're gonna go into that. All right. So what you're saying? Just one more question in regards to that. Like you say, you were brought up in a Christian home. Do you believe the people of the Bible are real?
You know what?
Sure. I believe that they lived at one time. Sure.
Okay.
I think it depends. One thing that we don't have a problem with is archaeology and the findings of science. And there are a lot of archaeological, there's a lot of evidence that, yes, some of those people are real. Some maybe not, But the important point is not, we're not fundamentalists. We're not really focused on the absolute literal truth of whatever we read. We try to take away more of the symbolism and the message in it. It's kind of like, like watching a really good movie. You don't automatically assume that's exactly how things happen, but you try to take away the moral of the story. Okay. So that's one thing that separates a lot of us from the families and households that we grew up in, because there are quite a few fundamentalists in America.
Right. So all right then.
So can I jump in here too? We can talk about the Bible, but understand, I have read it. I haven't read it cover to cover, word for word. I haven't memorized it, and I don't myself have certain opinions about it. I don't believe it's word for word true. So I'm not an expert to talk on the topic of what's in that book, but I can certainly give you my opinion from my perspective if that's what you're looking for.
Don't worry, man. We'll go into it. We'll go into it as the show goes on. You understand? I just want, I want the listeners who are tuning in to actually to get an understanding of what you're about, what you're dealing with, and all that. Now, one of the things that I have heard, yes, and I say heard, meaning that I heard that within a religion such as what is it, Wicca? Mm-hmm. Wicca or what you call paganism, you deal with sacrifices. Is that true?
No, no. That's a Hollywood myth taken over from basically Christian accusations during the Inquisition, claiming that Christians would steal unbaptized babies and sacrifice them to the devil, and all manner of lurid stories, which is exactly what they are, lurid stories. And
so you're saying that there's you being a high priest, you've never performed any ritualistic sacrifices, no?
Not of any living being, no. Definitely of a drop of wine that we'll pour out of a cup, to the gods. called a libation, or maybe a loaf of bread at a holiday, you know. But no, we're very, Wiccans are very respectful of life. We're animists. We believe that the universe around us has soul and spirit and is alive. Even things that people don't ordinarily think of as alive, like stones and mountains and such. So we tend to be very respectful of life, and we don't know. In fact, we find it kind of ironic that people are always accusing us of sacrifice when, you know, everyone who's sent off to war to be killed is said to be sacrificing his life, you know, or people don't have a problem with, you know, grinding up cows for hamburger, but boy, if somebody in a third world country, you know, which is still a valid tradition in many indigenous religions.
How about you, John? What do you have to say about sacrificing?
Well, brother, define for me what it is you're referring to as sacrifice.
I'm referring to, you know, whether it be sacrificing an animal, sacrificing a human, you know, a baby, whatever.
We do not. Oh, excuse me.
Go on. I'm sorry.
Forgive me for interrupting you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Go on. What are you saying?
We do not kill living creatures.
Okay, then.
For the purpose of religious practice. Many of us eat meat, so we kill creatures to sustain our own life.
Right.
And that may be considered a sacrifice.
Right.
To me, I define sacrifice as to make sacred, almost the same definition as to consecrate. And sacrifice is always additive. It's always adding to the more. So more prayer, giving of your time, your energy, your resources to the betterment of someone or something else beyond yourself and your own self-fulfillment. So like our brother Steve was saying, offering wine, offering bread, giving gifts back to the nature spirits, giving these gifts of prayer and energy to our brothers and sisters, going without something so that someone else might have something, that is a sacrifice, and that is the kind of sacrifice that we make. But never do we take another's life. For a sacrifice to be effective and to work and hold any power at all, it must be willing, and it must be given from the person who is hoping to perpetuate it forward.
So okay, then. So I'm taking that you do some level of sacrifice then. So what would the purpose of your sacrifice be for then?
To make sacred. So here's one way that we make sacrifice. We fast all day long, not taking in any food, and then we take the money that we would have spent on meals and food and donate that to the food bank with our prayers and with our energy of abstinence, that power and that energy would go forth and feed people, and that might ease some of the suffering and some of the hunger that's in the world. That's a sacrifice. That's one that holds power.
Okay, then. I don't know who can come in and explain this one to me. What's the origins of your religion? Where does it come from?
Well, it's the indigenous religion of Europe. In other words, the native religion of Europe. I often compare it to Native American religion, only this is what they were doing in Europe until.
Okay,
so yeah. Now, in that said, yeah, here in the Bible Belt, a lot of fundamentalist churches, especially since we've been so public, they will object to Halloween, and they'll have things called trunk or treat, where they just have the poor kids go around, not even necessarily in costume, and get candy from the trunks of other parents' cars in the parking lot. You know, it's kind of pitiful, but they, you know, well, in my opinion, anyway.
All right, man. Cool. You're locked into the Search Engine International. I'm your host, Brother Gocc. And at this point in time, the topic tonight is paganism, Wiccan witchcraft, Wicca. We have a high priest pagan, Steve, with us today. And at this point in the show, I'm going to introduce Elder Rakar to the show. Elder Rakar, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me clearly?
I'm hearing you clearly, man. How are you?
I'm blessed. Thank you, brother, for allowing me this evening to come on. Thank you. And I would like to say hi to Steve.
Hi. How you doing? Merry meet.
Okay. Bless you, brother.
Blessed be.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to come in, Gocc. I was listening to the show.
Okay.
And
so the early 1950s.
What do English law have to do with America? I thought America broke from the British rule.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of laws here. There were also a lot of laws here that punished people for being witches. In fact, we, Lady Passion and I, just maybe about 10 years ago, overturned one here that banned divination and fortune telling.
Okay, so you deal with divination.
Excuse me?
Okay, so you deal with
divination. No, the law in England just allowed a man named Gerald Gardner to come forth and say, I'm a witch and I'm a member of a coven that goes way back, and here's its traditions, here's what they do, and I'm going to publicize it because I'm afraid these people are getting old and they're going to die out if there's not some new folks that find out about what a wonderful, thing this is. Just to put it in a nutshell, and that kind of, because he was very public about it, opened a museum and everything of witchcraft. People started being more open here in America, and and then with the rise of feminism in the 70s, that really opened it up because it really does revolve around priestesses. It's a very much, there are plenty of men in the craft like me, but it's really kind of fundamentally centered on priestesses. And
well, Steve, I'm a little perplexed. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I'm jumping around.
Aren't you Jewish? Aren't you Jewish, sir?
Am I Jewish?
Yeah, you're Jewish, right?
No, my great grandfather was a Spanish Jew, but that's about as far as it goes.
But so he didn't pass the religion to you as far as following.
No, in fact, he tried to hide it because in those days they were Spanish Jews were equated with gypsies and persecuted also. So no.
Okay, all right. But you are quote unquote a Jewish man.
Only on one side and very far back, but no, I don't practice Judaism.
Okay, all right. Another thing I need to ask you on a few things you said earlier. All right.
Mhm.
All right. Do you believe in Satan?
No, unless you mean Al Pacino in a business suit at the top of a.
No. I'm not joking here. I'm saying because.
Well, I'm only half joking there because I believe that. Satan
what I'm asking you is because there's many gods that's being worshipped here. You said you deal with polytheism.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking you is, do you believe that there's a bad spirit out there that's over bad spirits?
No, only in the hearts of humans who have divided their mind from their heart.
Okay.
It's we believe that Satan is a Christian and Muslim deity or being, but he's not. And we also see that many of the in particular, one of the main gods that have been worshipped by pagans since time immemorial is the horn god, who's associated with nature and with like you see him in Minoan art and ancient Hindu art.
Like God Pan?
Pan, exactly. Pan, Dionysus.
So,
yeah. And
so that's the equivalent. Is Pan the equivalent of the Bible Satan?
Well, not really, but the Christians, because the worship of Pan was so popular, they attached Satan, their concept of Satan, to it. So it's kind of like saying, because you're in favor of universal health care, you're a communist. They just kind of started tarring people with that and persecuting them for worshiping that god, which they called Satan because they considered him a rival with their one god.
Well, let me ask you this, because it's well established already that you believe in spirits.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So you believe in spirits. You pray to spirits. You pray to gods.
Well, we pray to gods, and
yeah,
sometimes
So
interact.
what is the origin of the gods you pray to? Where did they come from? What is their origin?
Well, that's a good mystery. I mean, like I said earlier, Wiccans don't have any problem with science, except in one respect. You know, when scientists claim there's no such thing as spirit, we beg to differ. But as far as, like, for instance, the origin of the universe being in a big bang 13.7 billion years ago, we don't have a problem with that. And if that's where everything comes from in this particular cycle, then maybe, just maybe, that's where the gods come too.
No, but what I'm asking you is, so the answer is no. You don't know the origin of the gods that you're praying to.
Well, if you mean the ultimate origin, I think that it's extremely arrogant of any human to claim, and I don't mean any offense to anyone out there or to you,
well,
but
no, just speak candidly.
I think it's extremely arrogant of any of us humans to claim to know the origin of the gods, or to know even what the one is. You know, the one that is the source of all.
I
because
understand. It may be, but I'm just asking you, as far as you're concerned, we're talking about paganism right now. I'm just asking you.
We find that
most pagans don't know the origin of their gods that they follow.
We find it's more important to focus on our relationship with them and what they do for us, what we do with them, and it's surprisingly, I know people have this notion, this whole Hollywood notion of, you know, pagans signing pacts with demonic spirits in order to get rich, you know, but it's absolutely nothing.
Well, sir, the reason I'm asking you, sir, and that's why I asked you the question. I have a few more questions I have to ask you based on what you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know for sure the origin of the gods you follow, how can you say for sure Satan is not one of them?
Well, how can you say for sure what the origin of Satan is? I mean,
so let's leave it open then. Since
you know what one book tells you. One book which people assert was written by God, but how do you know that for sure? Well, you have faith,
I can
right?
answer that question for you. But I want to just talk about paganism. The fact that if you don't know the origin, it's a possibility that one of those gods could be Satan.
I've never encountered any deity that even comes close to Satan. I have encountered a lot of people.
Okay, well, let's talk about the enlightened one.
Pretty evil, but
let's talk about the enlightened one, the one that brings the enlightenment.
Well, we don't necessarily think there's just one. We think that that there's enlightenment to be found through many channels and through many people, and that's part of the problem we see with monotheism, is that it always claims there's only one, and that promotes the idea that there's a guru who will teach you everything, who's perfect, the idea that there's a prophet who's the only prophet that had the truth, and anybody who disagrees with him needs to have his head cut off, you know, kind of like the Islamists.
Okay, all right. So let's make this clear, though.
Uh-huh.
All right. Just so we can go to the next one, because I don't want to stay on this forever. I just want to speak to you about it, because I've asked people these questions. Let's go to the next one here. All right?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, because you were talking about the horn god, which is a man god.
Well,
which is your main god. He's your main god, the horn god, correct?
He's one of them, yeah. Most witches would say yes. They're he and the goddess, which they might call the great goddess or the great mother. That these are their two main deities, and that's certainly true for our coven and in our personal experience too.
Okay. Another question I have: would you relate that, or will some other cultures relate these same gods to what the Roman Catholic Church can call Jesus and Mary today?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because they do tend to have that kind of that kind of a balance between them. You know, one of them being kind of a bringer of change, of death of the old way and birth of a new way, and the other being very compassionate and loving and nurturing, and you know, and kind of like a father and a mother, like the ideal father and mother.
And I'm saying this is because I was reading this story called The Two Babylons, and the Roman nuns were perplexed when they went to certain polytheism countries who have never heard of Christianity. And when they went to the country, it was kind of a smooth transition with conversion, because the only thing they had to do was tell them that the name of your child and mother is the same as our Jesus and Mary. Like it was almost the same story that they would discuss in Christianity.
Right,
but it was ancient pagan gods. That
goes both ways. You know, it means that Jesus and Mary are also the same as in that sense.
Okay. Now, I'm going to put this out there strictly for the listeners and let people know that we're Hebrews, and we don't deal with Jesus and Mary. We deal with Yeshua and Ahiah, and I'm going to go with the difference in that real quick. But I really want to talk about this encounter you had with the horn god Pan. His name is Pan.
Let me draw one distinction, though, real quick before we go off of that, is that we don't think of them as having been human. You know, in other words, Jesus and Mary were, according to the Bible, were humans before, at least, you know, even if sent by God, still human. And but we don't think of our, most of the time, I mean, not all cultures or not all gods are this way, but in that particular case, no, we don't equate them with human beings.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking you, Steve, and to show you that the same gods are synonymous with paganism is within Christianity. They just don't want to deal with the reality of it.
Well, I agree, but that doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're evil. It just means people need to broaden and open up their hearts and minds a little more and accept that truth flows through many, many channels. Not all channels, I agree.
I guess that comes from the perception of what one would perceive as good or bad. But let me ask you this question, because I really want to hit this point, because I want to run down, and then I'm going to fade off and let you finish talking. You said you had an experience with the horn god.
One in particular, and more, but one that made the most impression on me, I'd say, yes.
I'm saying, did you have a personal experience? Did you see this horn god? Was it a spiritual? Yes. You seen him?
Yes, definitely.
So did you do some type of ritual, some type of spell to conjure him?
It was in a ritual, specifically to a traditional ritual, specifically to call him down. And he very much came, and he was a most impressive being, great dignity and great age, and he was. He took the form of what I can only call dark light. In other words, like a kind of light that is just not light. You know, almost. I don't know if this is what the physicists mean by dark energy, but it's like that. And
sort of like the biblical Lucifer.
No.
Okay.
Even though a lot of traditional witches used to use that name for him, that was just
okay.
Learned from the Christians. No, nothing like anything I've ever seen in the book.
There's another question I have for you while you're there. Excuse me, because I'm gonna let you go. But the deity in the spirit of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book that came to my attention about 6 years ago called The Witch's God. And Yahweh was one of the gods being worshipped or conjured or spoken of in spells under the Wiccans. And I was surprised to see that. Are you familiar with that? The YHWH?
Yeah, I believe I know that book. we might that was their particular tradition, but I will say this, that the word, the name Yahweh, it does come from a what we call in the Goodly Spell Book the vowel spectrum. If you look at all languages, all just the structure of the human mouth, and by the way, I learned this in college at Princeton as a student of music, and you were to pronounce all those vowels in order from the highest to the lowest, it would be, pardon me, this is going to sound strange, but it would be E-A-O-U. You can hear in that E-A-O-U or E-A-O-U. It's kind of the beginning, middle, and end of that. And most of the scholars that studied the name Yahweh point out that in its very earliest form, that's generally what it was represented as, including in the ancient world, is E-A-O-U.
But doing my research, I found out the word Yahweh actually has pagan origin.
Well, yes, it is pagan, and but it's an attempt. It's also Hebrew, and it's an attempt to capture the uncapturable. To say this is the all, as best we can express it is by saying all the vowels. How else can you say the name of something that's infinite except to try to say, the basis of all language?
So you believe the YHWH is an infinite God?
Well, it's originally, in Greek it would be Yoda, let's see, well, basically I-A-U is basically probably how you'd best spell it, the way they used to spell it in ancient Greek. But it's, that's the Yod-He, Vohe, that's actually the origin of that, the Chud.
Okay, because I'm and I actually put that out there with the knowledge of the origin of the word. And I wanted to be able to express that real quick.
Not just name. You also find it in deity, Dieu, D-A-O-U, Deus, Jupiter.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Jupiter, that name appears in all over the world, even in Chinese name for the supreme deity. The emperor, I think it was Yu, and you'll for the one who first brought arts and crafts to human beings. So you find it universally as a name for the universal deity, or the universal spirit behind all deities, I'd say. So even if people are using it nowadays in kind of a, I don't want to say bastardized form, but kind of a partial form as Yahweh, the name of this particular deity we worship, that's really the origin, I think, was mystics trying to capture this allness, the oneness of all, by saying, Yahweh, and that's the best any human can do.
Okay. Well, I wanted to put this out there because we did the research on the Masoretes. I don't know if you're familiar with the Masoretes around the 1st century.
I've heard of that, but I don't know much about it. Masoretes?
Yeah, the Masoretes were, around during the Dark Ages, right before the Dark Ages, during the time of the Crusades, around the 10th century, you had a conversion of the Khazars into Judaism, which are the modern-day Jewish people today. But what they did was they put their hands on the ancient text, and to control, because there's power through invocation, they made sure they would pull the true name of God out of the records to hide it from the Hebrews and injected the highest, what they would call universal supreme being of their God. But we did some Hebrew study, and we found that Yah means God or power. It don't denote a good or bad God or what God or how many gods. Yah just means God.
That's right, yeah. That's also what I've seen elsewhere.
And Hawa goes into the word in the Hebrew, mischief, falling.
Huh.
So the Yahweh actually...
Hawa?
Yeah. Hava. Hava means ruin, fallen, mischief. So it's the god of the fallen, the god of mischief. So
have you heard of the Gnostic god Yaldabaoth?
Yes.
Have you studied any about the ancient Gnostics and what they believed?
Yes.
Okay, so you know probably then, they had a very similar belief that in fact the God that the Christians worship was a trickster who.
But the whole deal, I want to put this out there. There is a God over all gods. There is a God. If there's many, you must know that it had to begin with one, and his name is Ahaya. I don't want to put that out there to the brothers and sisters. He's the God of the Hebrews. Ahaya is his name. The I am that I am always existed. All right. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you here, because this is getting quite interesting.
I agree, it is.
and some questions were sent to me, so some of these questions are not my questions. It's what others just want to know. All right?
Okay. Yeah.
One question, and I wouldn't ask this question, and I don't really care about this, but I'm just asking because it was sent to me to ask. Is there any what you will call sexual rituals within paganism?
Yes, there are. Pagans, Wiccans in particular, I can speak for, do believe that the sex and the body can be sacred and should be sacred, and there's a certain kind of energy that's raised during the sexual act that does play a role in some really certain.
Now, when I'm talking about this, what they're asking in particular is like when people see the movies Eyes Wide Shut, where there were these societies where there was orgies going on.
Yeah.
Is orgies part of these sexual rituals?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Some of the old covens, they were. You have to imagine these are very staid and proper English men and women that are in this very repressed Victorian society. So when they had a chance to cut loose, they cut loose.
But that's nothing that you all are a part of.
That's not, no. In fact, we even discourage people from. Let me put it this way: we don't want people to use our coven as a dating service. So we,
I'm saying, but is it unlawful? Let me ask you this: is it unlawful amongst Wiccans and pagans? Are there groups that do operate in those types of activities?
There may well be. I haven't. I can't say that I know any personally, but it certainly is. As long as everybody's treating one another with respect and care, and then it's not unlawful. However, we find it kind of impractical and imprudent because people tend to get a lot of things tied up with sex. They think, well, are you still going to see me tomorrow? No, I've got to go back to my wife. I mean, that's it's just too tangled, and it's just too much pain often comes out of that. So we, while we don't discourage the kind of sexual tension between opposites, and that is an important part of magic, we don't let people date each other. Well, we discourage them from doing it. We say, if you're going to do it, please go somewhere else, join another coven.
Okay. So really, that's really a segue into one of my final questions with you here, brother, and that's it leads me to my next question that I have to ask you. All right, because you said that, man, this is kind of wild, man. But anyway.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, okay. When you said that's one of the things that's within your magic or whatever, leading to magic here.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we were going here.
Well,
is it
no, I'm glad you
possible,
did, because I would have...
I'm going here because I need to ask you a question. Is it possible, or can it be done? Do pagans cast spells on people? I'm not asking you, are they supposed to? I'm not asking you about black or white magic. If a pagan wanted to, could they cast a spell against a person?
Yes, they could, and that's why we have a really strong tradition of ethics in the craft, in Wicca and witchcraft, and that's one thing where in order to progress in almost all pagan religions and learn to use that kind of magic, that's why almost all cultures, including witches, pagan groups, require that you become a priest or priestess, so you be trained in how to use that properly and ethically and not use it to harm others. We have one principle that all witches agree on, and it's called the law of threefold return. And, different ones express it a different way, but that's usually what we call it. And it's basically, if you cast a curse on someone, be prepared for it to backfire on you. What you put out there is going to come around back to you sooner or later. You could call it karma. You could call it the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But there's basically kind of a reciprocity that goes on that, whereas if you bless someone, expect that blessing to return also. So, yeah, we say that we do have the power to bless and to curse. But generally, people, I'll tell you, I'll be honest, as public witches, people are calling us all the time asking us to curse someone. And
that's a shame.
Yeah, well, sometimes people have really, righteous grievances against someone who's been cheating on them or, maybe raped someone close to them, that sort of thing, But what we really encourage them to do is to say, wait a minute, step back from that first impulse of wanting to hit back with the same thing you got hit with, and there is magic you can do, but it may have to do with restraining that person from doing further harm. It may have to do with ensuring that justice comes to bear.
So what you're saying, there's laws in being a witch or dealing with witchcraft. There's laws within that. Yeah,
there are really strong ethical principles that
but someone
really
could with this knowledge do some serious deadly harm.
Not really, no. Let me put it this way.
If you got to think about it, brother, that means someone can do some things.
I actually was targeted by a curse one time. That's what made me pause. I remember I never knew where it came from, who put it on me, or I had a pretty good idea of why, but it came very close to killing me, and I had to do some serious magic to stop it. And that's
it seems like a Harry Potter story here.
Well,
let me ask.
It was actually.
Let me ask you. Okay, let me ask you this, because there's a few things I just have to bring. You know what I mean? And a couple of. Another question I had is UFOs.
Yes. Okay.
UFO activity. What is a Wiccan or witch's take on the truth of UFOs, or what the government is not saying concerning unidentified flying objects? Is some of these gods that are being worshipped, or are they a part of some of these beings or these spacecrafts that be disappearing and appearing? What do a Wiccan say concerning UFOs? Well,
kind of the consensus is that no, they're not gods, because they won't come when you call them, whereas gods usually do.
Hey, well,
however, if they're
seems like you got God popping up with some of your rituals, so.
Well,
but you talking about the UFOs here? Have you ever encountered?
It's hard to get an alien to show up when you want them to. But no, we do believe that there's life is so vast and so complex, but that we also tend to believe that any culture that's out there that's been around a lot longer and maybe a lot wiser than, current human society is proving to be at the moment.
No, I just got a question to me. They just want to know if you ever experienced that. So let's get back to something we all can relate to now. Just stick with me, Steve, here, because we on a roll here.
Maybe, yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. The speaking in tongues in Christianity. I did some research on that and found that goes back to some Roman rituals with the god Bacchus, who's the same as Dionysus.
Yeah.
So speaking in tongues in the Christian church, and when I look in the Bible, I see nothing of what they're doing in the church in the Bible, because when in Acts the 2nd chapter, when the Holy Spirit came down, it allowed those who didn't understand others' languages to understand them so the gospel of Christ can be taught. But babbling in an unknown tongue and opening yourself for channeling in spirits go back to the god Bacchus. And that's what I researched. You being a pagan, is that correct or incorrect?
That's probably right, yeah, because their whole thing was with the, in those days with the worship of Bacchus was to reach a state of ecstasy where you were directly channeling the spirit of the god. And, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people did start, babbling in strange tongues. Honestly, if you read, like, in our Goodly Spell book, we put a lot of very
I'm
old...
not going to read that. Go ahead.
Okay, it's called, I'll just repeat it. It's called the Goodly Spell book, Old Spells for Modern Problems by... and as you probably find it under the name Dixie Dearman, author name Deerman.
No, but
anyway...
But go ahead. I need to hear what you have to say on this.
Well, we have some very old, in fact, we looked for the oldest spells we could find from the Roman and pre-Roman period, and quite a lot of them are they're called barbarous words of power, which means they're very ancient, such ancient languages that nobody knows really what they mean anymore. Let's see, here let me read you this one, see if I can pull this off.
Come on, please. Don't be reading no stuff like that. Don't be putting no stuff out there right now, brother. We're very spiritual people here. And no. I just rather
that is an old spell word.
I don't want you to be putting none of that. Nah, please. It's going fine right now. I trust you.
Spell. Don't worry. It was a healing spell for removing a fever. People used to take off one letter from the end each time they said it until it finally ended with the word like relief, That way they'd bring down the fever of the sick person. So most of these old spells, that's what they were actually for, was for healing people and helping them with, medical problems or various other kinds of problems. But they're never, well, at least the ones we put in our book, none of them are curses or anything like that. So they're useful and helpful, but not dangerous. We wouldn't publish anything dangerous like that.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because I wanted to make sure that part was placed out there, because there's a lot of, I'm coming to find there's a lot of pagan rituals within Christianity itself. And the sheer ignorance within Christianity is perplexed. I'm perplexed with it, is that to come down on everyone and say, well, my way is the only way, but really your way is paganism. And then you tell a pagan they're going to hell if they don't follow your way when you stole your way from pagans.
Yes, that's exactly what we say.
So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, let me ask you that, since we're going into the afterlife and things of that nature, when it comes to hell, which they speak of, do you believe there's an underworld? Do you believe that there's a hell, a place that exists after one leaves the earth?
Well, we only have really one fixed belief, and it's based on our experience, and that's in reincarnation. witches do believe in reincarnation, though we've had many lives before.
You believe in reincarnation.
And so we believe that, we experience, actually, a lot of people, like we listen to people who have died and come back to life, like on the operating room table and so forth. And they'll often talk about going to, in fact, my own high priestess and wife, Lady Passion, that happened to her. When her daughter was born, she died and found herself in a silver sphere with a whole bunch of other silver spheres, just shooting out past the planets, out towards a place that was incredibly beautiful. It looked like she says, I know this sounds corny, but it looked like Superman's city of crystals, and it was that way above, and beneath it seemed like there was a utterly dark reflection of it, of it. I was going towards that upper light part, with all these other silver spheres. But she says that this knowledge came to me, and that kind of how the whole universe worked. It was all this whole idea basically of polarity and balance and duality. And as soon as she thought other people should know this, I wish other people knew about this. She says they, and she had a distinct feeling of it being they, gods, sent her right back, and she found herself right back in her body, right, where she had just bled to death a moment earlier. And ever since then, she's been a very different person. She feels, much less afraid of death, as she knows.
Well, let me ask, because I don't think the question, maybe I need to just ask it in a different way, because I can actually go into the scriptures and show you what she experienced, because what she experienced is actually in the 70 scriptures that were hid in the Qumran caves from the prophet Esdras.
Well, it's also in Plato. I mean, Plato writes about that in one of his Timaeus, I think it is. And I'm actually a big follower of Plato and Socrates as pagan philosophers.
Yeah. They were two known pagans.
Well, there were, and the thing that she experienced is written there and described as the experience of a soldier who died and came back to life. It's in a lot of
Yes. Let me just real quick. One sec. Real quick. I want to make a quick announcement. Everyone, you tune into the Search Engine International. I'm your host, Gaja. We have Elder Rakar live here. We also have Steve. I'm sorry, I forgot your surname. But
Rasmussen.
Steve. Okay. Repeat that, please.
Steve Rasmussen.
Rasmussen, and Steve Rasmussen is a pagan, or from the religion witchcraft.
Witchcraft, Wicca, yeah, both. Yeah, you can call it either, really.
Okay, all right, and for the listeners who are there tuning online, we have an hour and 30 minutes to go before the overtime. Now, we had some problems last week. Those of you who are trying to get into the Skype, what you need to do is click on the live link for the show, and you'll see the Skype link to call in. All right, you can try to start doing it from now so that when it comes down to the time, you don't get cut off. We have an hour and 20 minutes to go. An hour and 29 minutes to go for the overtime. All right, and that's it. Pleasant listening. I'll hand it back over to Elder Rakar and Steve.
Okay, so...
Yeah, you had another question?
Yeah, the question I asked is, so you don't know for sure whether or not there's a hell, or you don't know about that? Because the reason I'm asking you is because when someone dies, according to Scripture, they behold the light. They go through everything you've just experienced. It's a 7-day period before they go into place of habitations where they'll be based on the judgment of their life. But originally, you adorn that life. You deal with the 7 days. You understand? But I'm asking you, do you know anything, or is the teaching of hell or torment after life? Is that anything within your religion specifically? Is what I'm asking you.
Not in the Christian way. No. That's no. That we don't have that teaching, and we honestly haven't. We rely a lot on experience, what people's experiences are, as opposed to what we're told or what a book tells us. And I haven't known of anybody who's encountered anyone who's gone to a hell or experienced or seen it. However, that's not to say that people don't experience that when they die. They might very well. I think that a lot of people, one thing we do deal a lot with, let me tell you this, is ghosts, angry ghosts, spirits of people who may have died very angry, and were maybe very bad people in their life, and they're caught in a kind of hell a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times. So, people will call us in to try to get rid of a ghost that's destroying things in their house or, really causing a lot of trouble. And quite often that's the problem. And they're suffering. They're tormented by whatever it is got them.
Okay, well, answering the question directly, no, y'all don't deal with the hell. Let me ask you this.
We talk about the hell of the Christians, but it's kind of
okay, all right.
First. May you go to the hell of the Christians. It's a joke, really.
Listen, let's go into the symbolisms now. There's certain symbols that's used, like the Jewish star, the 6 point, what they call the Star of David, which could be called the Seal of Solomon. Right. Which is a 6-pointed star.
Now that is a very ancient symbol that represents as above, so below. It's the two interlaced triangles. One of them's pointing up, the other one's pointing down.
Yeah. It's what the Jewish people are hiding, and they call them the Star of David, but it's not the Star of David at all. Is that correct?
You're right. It's much older than that, and much more universal. And it means
and its history is shrouded within paganism. It's the origin, not shrouded, but its origin is paganism. Yeah, and really the 6-pointed star have nothing to do with the Star of David. Am I correct in that?
You're right. It was not adopted by most Jews until the Middle Ages. In ancient times, like the old carvings that you find on Roman ruins, Judaism was always represented by the the 7 or 9 branched candelabra, the Hanukkah candelabra. That's how that was the symbol for Judaism then. I forget what the name of that is. That holds the candlesticks. The menorah.
But under Megan David, it was switched under the Rothschilds. They switched symbolisms under the Rothschilds to it's called in Enochian magic. It's called the Seal of Solomon, and this is magic that was used under some of the Kabbalists.
Yes, it is. It does play a role in that. Yeah, and that is probably how it came into Judaism. Yeah, it was from the Kabbalah, because it is a magical symbol. It represents what nowadays mathematicians call the fractals. The idea that everything on high is reflected on low. That you find the same laws, same structures, same whatever, whether you're dealing with the very large level like universes or the very small level like atoms. And so they call that, in magic, we call that the principle of as above, so below. It's called the Hermetic.
Well, I'm asking you this, sir, because I know other Hebrews who ignorantly picks up the symbol and don't even know what the symbol is about. They think there's some type of cultural connection with the ancient Hebrews and this 6-pointed star.
Yeah.
You understand?
Well, you're right.
And
they don't know that. It's become like kind of an arbitrary logo, like everything's a logo nowadays. So that's the logo for Judaism, just like... So
I want to put this out there for all the brothers out there who are ignorantly. If you're going to follow something, find out the origin of it, instead of just saying, "Well, this was something of my father's."
I agree with that. Yeah, you should really understand the origin and the deeper meaning of things. Because a symbol isn't just an arbitrary bit of geometry. It reflects some kind of universal principle, depending on the symbol. And
So you use not only the 6-pointed star, but you use the 5-pointed star, what we call the Baphomet also. Is that correct?
Yeah, we don't associate it with Baphomet, but yeah, we do use the 5-pointed star. It's an interlaced 5-pointed star, and we usually surround it with a circle.
When you're using a 5-pointed star, is there any level of fire as a part of this particular ritual?
Yeah, it represents, to us, it represents the 4 elements plus spirit. So the 4 elements are fire, air, water, earth, and then the kind of the central core element that gives rise to all the others is spirit, the one that animates them, gives them life.
I have a better question.
Uh-huh.
Is a Christian, just say a normal Christian or regular person who watch TV, whatever the case is, if they were to happen onto one of these rituals with a 5-pointed star with fire, would they assume that you are dealing with some level of satanic worship?
Well, they can and do. They because they've seen all those darn Hollywood movies, you know. And so yeah, a lot of we've had a lot of trouble with that over the years. You know, people make leap to wild assumptions, and so they'll call in the police, and you know, we'll say, hey, you know, we've got a religious ritual going on here. Don't you know? Sometimes we have to, like with our big public ritual. We every year we do a big public ritual in downtown Asheville, and we're doing it again this year on October 31st, and for Halloween or Samhain. And we, you know, a lot of times we get protesters from the Baptist churches coming and shouting, you know, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, and all kinds of that sort of thing. And we have to, sometimes the police have had to hold them back, you know, because...
Personally, I'm a firm believer in the grace and the mercy and forgiveness of Christ. So I don't understand how a Christian could come out and tell a pagan that the Bible says, "Suffer not a witch to live," when they stole their religion from pagans and they don't follow the laws in the Bible themselves. It's
rife with hypocrisy, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're not following the laws in the Bible. How can you're telling your people when the Bible says don't eat pork, shrimp, crab, or lobster.
Yeah.
When the Bible says remember the Sabbath and you're worshiping on a Sunday. When the Bible tells you that you're not supposed to follow the ways of the Gentiles, but yet you're following the same pagan religions, Christmas and Easter. So how can you now tell a pagan that they're worshiping Satan when, well, are you worshiping Satan then? If you were dealing with the same paganism as a pagan and you equate that to Satanism, now, are you saying that you're following Satan? So what you need to do, listen, what you would need to do is make a sign and show these Christians the similarity between paganism and Christianity.
They're blind to that. The people that do this are so tightly wound, they're almost schizophrenic. And they tend to be very, I don't know how much, you know, where you are, you experience this, but here in the South, there's some strands of fundamentalist Christianity that are just absolutely aggressive, and, you know, they want to, they're literally just like the suicide bombers in the Islamic countries. You know, let me say this.
Hold on. Listen, I want to make this point real quick before it eludes me.
Okay.
Real quick, I need to make this point before it eludes me. The whole deal is I don't agree with your religion. I'll tell you that right now. But Christ said, but I'll be straight with you. Christ says, be either hot or cold. Because if you're lukewarm, you're spewed out of the mouth. At least you're following your religion, and that's what you're going to follow, and that's your road you chose.
Yeah.
And you have a chance, once you see a greater light, if you see the truth, to repent if you find that it's wrong, to take the right road. That's different than a Christian who stole your religion telling you you're going to go to hell. So
I totally agree. Yeah, if you're going to choose that path, choose it with integrity, and practice it with integrity, you know, and don't Yeah,
That's
and I think
lukewarm.
I totally agree with you about
so this
that.
is what I'm saying. You should help them by bringing out a sign and say, listen, here's paganism, and here's the same thing that you do that we do. So at least it gives them the choice to look in the mirror and say, you know what, let me really go into this Bible. Let me go into this and see what I'm really dealing with. Because if they might as well join the pagan church, is what I'm saying. And that's the point I was trying to make with the pastor last week, pointing his finger, saying right or wrong. And I'm like, listen, brother, you don't understand. You can make an excuse for why you do Sunday worship. You can say that it's about Jesus, but Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. That's Saturnalia.
Yeah.
You can talk about Christ rising on a Sunday. He didn't rise on a Sunday. When they went on the first day, Christ was already gone. He rose on a Sabbath. You're worshiping Sunday because of the integration with Constantine, integrating pagan beliefs with the new religion, Christianity, for worldwide acceptance. He was a known pagan. So
yeah,
don't come out and try
that's
to
true.
tell
As a pagan, I'll confirm that.
Wait. Huh?
As a pagan, I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. So don't come try to tell people this is the way when your way was created out of paganism. Now, I believe the Bible is the way. I believe that the truth is the way. But Christ told us in Matthew 24 that many shall come in my name saying I am Christ and shall deceive many. All right? So some of the greatest deception will come through Christianity. Look at all the death, destruction, mayhem, and hell this world have experienced in the name of Christianity.
Well, yeah, and that's because people are so certain they've got the one and only answer to everything that they're willing to kill for it, just to prove
You know what?
to prove how right
I'll say
they
this,
are.
Steve, I don't agree with your religion. I'll tell you that wholeheartedly. I don't agree with what you believe. I don't. But you know what? I have more respect for you than a Christian, because at least you know what you're dealing with. And Christ says either be hot or cold or spewed out. I don't agree with it at all. I believe that if you don't change that it's going to be a bad deal for you at the end of the day.
Well, that's why we've been
believe.
working really hard to, to educate people about paganism and Wicca. And we have a huge website at this point. It's, with tons of information about that. And we're putting together a correspondence course that anyone can take and learn and study from. And
I'm not here to help you spread.
Hold up. Let me jump in real quick on something. Go ahead. You spoke about earlier about the star in Judaism, right?
Yeah.
How about the moon and stars in Islam? Is that also pagan?
There's a lot of evidence that it comes from Byzantium. Yeah, that originally that was the symbol of Byzantium, and it was associated with Hecate, the same goddess our coven worships, Hecate, because the story goes that in Byzantium, that's of course the origin. That's Constantinople, which became Istanbul, but and then became the capital of the Islamic world for a while, around 500 years ago, under the Ottoman Empire. But yeah, where that started was as a symbol of Hecate. It was a night when only a star and the sliver of the moon were out, and actually the star was Venus. That star represents Venus, and Philip, the father of Alexander Alexander the Great, Philip of Macedon, his father, came and tried to conquer the Byzantines at night. These soldiers were creeping up, and the Byzantines say there was a great flash of light, and the dogs started barking. Nobody knew where the light came from, but it revealed Philip's troops sneaking up on them, and they were able to repel the attack. And ever since that day, they had Hecate as their patron goddess, and her symbol, they used that moon and star as her symbol. We still use it, by the way, which is...
well, you know what, man? That story that you just told me just then sounds like the American anthem.
Oh, yeah, which started as a drinking song, yeah. To Anacreon in heaven, yeah. Yeah, who's a pagan god. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it started out as a god, as a.
So I have a good question for you. I have a good question for you now. It just popped out at me, and I think this will be a profound answer. That whatever you want to come with will be profound. I know the question. If Islam is founded in polytheism, because we know before Muhammad they had one god for each day of the year, which was under Persian mythology, which is paganism.
Yeah, that's right. In the Kaaba, they had 360 idols.
So here's my question. If Islam was founded in paganism and the modern-day Christianity was founded in paganism, why is it that you think they both try to hide their pagan origin? Why?
I call it reaction formation. They're so afraid of that they're viciously anti-pagan. You know, Muhammad is an example of that. You remember you heard about like 10 or 15, maybe years ago, that novel, The Satanic Verses. Well, that author who, the Ayatollah issued a fatwa against, and Salman Rushdie, he took that title from some actual verses in the Quran that are called the Satanic Verses. And the story is, and this is, you ask Islamic scholars about this, and they'll tell you this story too, is that as Muhammad was reciting the scripture that's in, he said, and Al-Uzza and Alat and Mananet, they are exalted as, and the word people think is cranes, flying across the sky, and they will, you can call on them for intercession. And they were the three goddesses that were that the Kaaba was sacred to, and they're like the maiden, mother, and crone that we call nowadays. One of them was like a young goddess representing, virgin. The second was the great goddess, her name means the goddess. And Mananet was the goddess of fate, and like the fate that cut off the thread in Greek mythology. So, when they heard that, the inhabitants of Mecca, who were pagans still, most of them, were overjoyed, and they fell down and prostrated themselves around the Kaaba and said, "Yay, finally we've got unity, we don't have to keep fighting anymore." Well, then Muhammad had second thoughts and decided that, Satan must have put that thought in his head, and he changed it and said, basically, instead of the verse that says they are like great cranes flying across the sky and you can pray to them for intercession, he cut that out and said, you can't pray to them, basically. They're forbidden, So, he cut out the goddesses, Islam.
So why, my question is, why do they, especially the hierarchy, they have to know what they're dealing with. And I'm talking about, I'm looking at some of the hidden Wiccans, some of the hidden witches and warlocks who are not open as pagans, like your Masons today, who deal with the same symbology. They deal with spells.
Yeah, closely related.
You know what I mean?
They are very close to us. Yeah, we're really come from the same source. Yeah.
Same source. They tell you that you must be from one of the original religions to be a Mason, because why? They know the original religion, the origin of all these religions, go back to ancient paganism.
Well,
but my question is,
wait, let me correct you there. They don't say that. They say that they're open to any religion. You bring your sacred book and put it on the altar. They worship God as a universal one. They say that people can belong to any religion and still be a Mason.
Yes, because really all religions have the same origin. The whole world religion has the same origin.
Really, I believe it does. It's nature.
So my question is, and I don't, maybe I didn't hear the answer, but I really need to hear the answer.
Yeah.
Why are they afraid to say that my religion started with paganism?
because then they'd have to give up control. As soon as you say there's only one way, and I've got that way, then you're in control. It's just like being king. You know, there's only one king in this country, and I'm him. You know, anybody else says they're king, I'm going to go out and kill them. And that way you can, you know, and it's also, I got to say, I think it's a masculine thing too. It's a way of shutting out priestesses and women, and they're extremely powerful. I mean, you may or may not agree with this, but 9 times out of 10, I think women tend to be more spiritual naturally spiritual than men. And you can see in the history of Islam and Christianity how terribly afraid they were of that, and how they took great pains to deny that Jesus had a wife, you know, like that manuscript that's just been discovered says, or to deny that these goddesses were part of Islam. So anyway, that's just my theory, but I think you'll find a lot of agreement with that.
All right. So, in a nutshell, if they're going to say that, if they believe wholeheartedly that paganism and Satanism is one and the same, so they're in denial, because if they admitted their similarities, they would have to admit that according to their belief, they're actually worshiping Satan themselves.
Well, you know, yes, I agree with that. I think that is really right. The thing is their own Satan. Yeah, I honestly have come to believe that, and I'm not original in that. That's what the Gnostics believe, and you know, I think they created this idol, and now they worship it. I mean, not all of them, you know, but the people that are out there, you know, suicide bombing and out there burning crosses on black people's lawns, you know, those people are actually, I think they're worshiping their own Satan, honestly.
Okay. I just got another question. You really have to give me some understanding on this. Is there any pagan similarities in the old rituals of the KKK?
I don't know. I mean, my impression of the KKK is that they just grabbed. I'm not talking about the.
Listen, I'm not talking about the hate part of that. I'm talking about their rituals.
They seem
the burning of the cross.
Yeah, I don't know where they got that from. Why would you burn your own sacred symbol? You know.
Well, they actually got that from Druid belief from ancient Europe.
Druid?
Exactly. It was a Druid. It's a Druid worship from the Celts.
Oh, a burning cross.
All right.
Well, I know that at the solstice they might have done something like that as a sun symbol.
Yeah, the sun symbol. Yeah.
In ancient Germanic cultures, they used to, they would light a wheel on fire and roll it down a hill as a symbol of the sun. But that's not quite the same. So I didn't know that.
I got a few of them. I got a next one, Steve. I hope I'm not bombarding you here. I got another one. Just
I don't mind at all.
What are pagans' idea or understanding of, or what are your feelings of European colonization, of how the North American Indians were destroyed, and then it opened the door for pagans and others to worship a religion on stolen land? That's a good question there.
Well, given that the Native Americans were pagan themselves, and many of them were forced to give up their beliefs in mission schools, I think it's this mentality again that, it's two things. One of them is that mentality that I call monopoly monotheism, but, you know, where there's only one way and it's my way. But I think the other thing, too, is that there's another mentality, too, that where people are kind of caught. These two mentalities are kind of at war in the world, I think. And the other one is, I call it money-worshipping materialism, you know, where, where all that matters is getting rich, and everything around you, you only see it as a means to an end. You just see that, you don't see that mountain as sacred, you know, you see it as just something that's got gold in it, and you're going to dig it up. And much off of it. And it's you see that's kind of prevalent in America today. That it's the Wall Street mentality, and that was prevalent among the colonists too. They didn't care who or what was in their way. They just wanted to grab those resources and go back and build their mansions on that stolen wealth. And it comes from a kind of materialism where you see the world around you as just nothing but dead stuff that you can use to your own end. And you see people that way too. You see them as human resources to be exploited, And I think that all religions are at war against that, even though some of them contribute to it.
Okay, so in a nutshell, you don't agree with the European conquest through greed. So
no, not at all. No, I think it was
all right. Well,
for the
let's
ages.
go on, because that question had nothing to do with paganism. Let me ask you this. Some of the movies, some of the spells that are being actually spoken, like on Harry Potter or these other movies, are those actual spells? Are those actual things that are written in ancient pagan books?
Some of them are, yeah. Like there's a character in Harry Potter called Rubius.
Okay.
That's from a geomantic figure, a divination figure called Rubius, which means the red-headed one. It's very similar to Ifa, by the way, that divination system. It's called geomancy. But the spells, they say, like, tormentum invisibilium or that sort of thing, they're not real spells. They're kind of modeled on spells, because a lot of old spells are Latin. But no, they're not. None of them are actual spells.
Hey, John, Steve, sorry, excuse me. Let me ask something on the Harry Potter. Would you say the author of Harry Potter, would she be a witch?
I wish. No, I think she just read a lot of books and cribbed a lot of things. No, I think if she were a witch, she'd be sharing a little more of those royalties with other witches.
Okay, so you don't think she's from any Wiccan order? Because when I, like you said, when I was looking into the Harry Potter movie, I found a lot of like, for example, the second movie, when they have the basilisk snake in it. I know that's a snake that's reverent in witchcraft. Is it not?
There's a lot of, it depends. Yeah, I mean, the serpent is a really symbolic creature in so many religions. Yeah, it has a lot of meaning. So you can pretty much pull from any source for that. Yeah. But no, I think if she is a witch, then she's been absolutely secret about it. Not even other witches that we know have had any contact with her in that way. And I honestly think that, she, just like the Hollywood writers, you can get all of this stuff just by reading enough books and putting it together and getting, she's very good at taking things that are real and kind of cobbling them together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Another quick announcement.
Let me ask him this real quick before you, and I'm going to let you back in if you don't mind. Gotcha. Let me ask, homosexuality, lesbians and gay men doing things with each other. What is your take on that as a Wiccan? Is that allowed in Wiccan?
Well, let me put it this way. Every year at our big Samhain, October 31st ritual that we do, the big public one, we have a different theme, and this year the theme is Love is the Law, and we're going to be holding a mass wedding and hand fasting for anyone of any sex and any couple or triple that wants to do it. And even though it will only be legal for the people that are heterosexual, we still are, want to say, look, nature is much more diverse than just male coupling with female. And that's the real natural law is love, and that's the most important thing of all. So we're going to do that publicly in front of the courthouse as a kind of a ritual.
So you do welcome homosexual men and lesbians within this unit?
Most American witches do, but I got to be honest with you that traditional British witches, way back in the old days, maybe 100 years ago, did not. They were very much against it, and
Okay.
That gay people were not allowed to be in a coven in those days. They had to be. They were considered very magical, but they were like they would be like messengers who would go between covens, come to visit one or the other. But that's nowadays most witches consider that prejudiced and bigoted, and so we're we think that what's in the heart is more important than what hangs between your legs.
Okay. Well. The issue we have with that is that I don't know any homosexual or lesbian that came in the earth through a homosexual or lesbian reprocreation. Like they are a product. They are of love. They are a product of love as far as male and female. So I don't understand how that whole thing is, but maybe we'll have someone on next week to talk about that. But let me ask you. Let me just ask you all out, because it's not being bigoted. It's about being straight.
Well, it's about focusing just on procreation. I mean, marriage and partnership is about a lot more than that. In fact, we think more people ought to adopt children and having them.
That's an intricate part of that. But that's an intricate part of it, because if everyone decided to do that, that would be the end of life itself.
Well, we got a long ways to go with that. We got like 7 billion people or more and counting on this planet, and there's honestly, they're procreating a little.
Listen, I won't deal with that with none of my children. But let's go here. Let's go here real quick, and let's be straight.
Hello, fella. Can I just make an announcement real quick? We're down to we're under 1 hour for normal time. We're gonna go into the overtime in approximately 55 minutes. For the listeners there who listening via the internet, now would be a good time to try and call in. And for the listeners on Skype throughout the UK, Jamaica, and parts of the Middle East, into Africa, that would be a good time to try and start calling in via the Skype route also. That's it. You're locked into the Search Engine International. I'm your host, Brother Gocc. We have Elder Rakar on the phone, and we have Steve Rasmussen.
There you go.
I got it. All right. All right, then let me hand it back over to you guys, okay?
Yeah, I wanted to say this also, that for those who listen, I mean, this has been one of the most interesting conversations we've had on air. I mean, besides the rabbi that came on one time, and I mean, that was just profound in itself. But it's interesting that we have a pagan on that's saying that came with absolute truth concerning his religion. And one thing that was brought out today, and I'm glad he brought it out, is that the majority of Christianity we have today is really hidden paganism. We've been mentioning this for a long time. They want to tell people go to hell, our way is our way, and this, that, and the other. When really, the Sunday worship, Christmas, Easter, even the virgin birth. Is there a virgin birth in paganism, sir?
In ancient paganism, yeah. There were several deities that were, I'm trying to remember the exact source of that. But yeah, that's in either Greek or Roman paganism, I forget.
Yeah, Horus and Osiris.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Horus, Osiris. In ancient Egypt, you had Tammuz, the virgin child of Babylon.
That's right, yeah.
And that was
that's
well
absolutely
before
right.
Christ.
Yeah, that's taken from older myths, older pagan myths.
If you don't mind, let me read one thing out of the Bible that I don't think Christians even knew that was in the Bible. In Jeremiah 44, when the Hebrews began to worship the Gentile deities, the pagan deities, it was written, the prophet Jeremiah wrote this about to them. It says, Jeremiah 44, and I'm going to put this out there for everyone. It says, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee. That's what the people began to do. It says, then all the men who knew that their wives had burned incense to other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee. But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven.
Ah, the Queen of Heaven.
Yeah, you know her, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Queen of Heaven.
Yeah.
And to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have. But we will certainly do so whatsoever goeth forth out of our own mouth. Listen to this clearly. Goeth forth out of our own mouths to burn incense to the Queen Mother of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done. We and our fathers, our kings and our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine. And when we burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and pour out drink offerings unto her, did we make her cakes to worship her, and pour out drink offerings unto her without our men? Now, I'm saying this because here's some examples in Scripture showing that the Hebrews were punished for dealing with the Queen Mother of Heaven, pouring out the drink, doing the wine ritual like you was mentioning. A lot of people don't know that the birthday cake, blowing out a candle on a birthday cake, is ancient paganism.
It could be, yeah. I've often wondered about that.
Yeah. In ancient Rome, they got it from Greek. Matter of fact, it started in ancient Babylon. Greeks picked it up, and then the Romans picked it up, where you would have, once a year, you would have to bake a cake to the goddess Diana, which is your Statue of Liberty Day, ironically.
Yeah, and I have a web page on that, too, on oldandwild.org. Artemis is what she is. And not Artemis, I mean Athena, rather, is
Athena, yes.
Yeah.
She was a hunter goddess.
Diana, the goddess of the moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they would have
moon was her bow. I mean, that's the symbol of the crescent moon. Is like a bow.
Moon is her bow, exactly.
Yeah.
So they would put a cake in front of her, and if they didn't light a candle and make a wish, they said that the gods would haunt you for a year. Like bad spirits would ride you for a year. So each year they would have to bring a cake before the temple, before her feet, and make a cake to the goddess and blow out the candle. That's where your everyday practices, even in blowing out the candle. Honeymoon, even the word honeymoon is an ancient pagan ritual.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I just looked that up the other day, and I forgot what I read about it. But yeah, there are a lot of pagan rituals around that which we're going to be try to incorporate some of that this Halloween. What I'm saying is, before I got with you today, because I knew you was coming on, I just did some research, and some research I had in the past. Another thing I did, right now I'm traveling abroad, Steve, but in America I did a research of all the so-called holidays in America. Wouldn't you know that every holiday, even Martin Luther King's Day, falls on an ancient pagan Roman day? Well, the thing is, they had holidays practically every day of the year, depending on the deity, so you could pretty much throw a dart at it and hit a Roman pagan holiday. That's part of the thing about having so many gods and goddesses is that there's a lot of sacred days you got to celebrate.
Well, exactly. Well, I'm going to ask you some questions based on the list I have in front of me.
Okay, the Queen of Heaven thing is interesting. I would like to make a point about that.
Go ahead.
Originally, the Hebrews believed that, like most pagan peoples, that who had one god, that god had a wife, or who had a supreme god, that the supreme god had a wife. Like Jupiter had Juno, Zeus had Hera. Well, Yahweh, many believe, had Astarte, who was related to Astaroth, Isis, Venus. They were all kind of very similar deity, and they are all basically the same goddess. and associated with Venus, the morning star. But anyway, yeah, they used to erect a pillar to her, which was kind of represented the tree of the world, you know. And but yeah, the
that's where the Christmas tree come in at.
Well, maybe, yeah, it is related to that. Yeah, world tree.
Yeah,
sort of a Norse thing, probably, but yeah, the same symbolism, that it represents the axis of the world, the thing that everything spins around. You know,
you better not tell a Christian that. They love their Christmas trees.
Yeah, well, we love them too. We pagans, so we think it's one of the best parts of Christmas is bringing the greenery into the house to represent eternal life. You know, life within the darkness and the cold. You know, and that's what it symbolizes: is the fact that life goes on no matter how hard, how cold, how dark things get. You know, here are these trees that in the middle of all that are still green, you know, and that's what faith is like, and that's what the gods are there for too. They're always there, you know, no matter what comes and goes on this material plane. And
well, let me.
Yeah.
Someone just asked a question. I just want to put it out there. Someone asked, who was the Queen Mother of Heaven? I want to put this out there. The Queen Mother of Heaven in ancient Babylon was Semiramis, which was supposed to be the mother of God or the mother of Tammuz, who was supposed to have had.
It was a little later version.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. She's related to Ashtoreth and.
Exactly. It was Ashtoreth at another time because.
Just all these different languages.
It depends on what generation it came out of. You had the ancient Babylon, and you had the Babylon during Nimrod's time, and then the worship of her later on down the line. So you are correct.
Mary through Isis. I mean, the symbolism of Mary with the blue cloak and the
Mary
stars.
is the same thing. The Christian church Mary is Semiramis, it's Isis, it's Ashtoreth. It's the same goddess.
It is, yeah. We're, you know, we think that's really important to have that feminine principle in your deity. You know, I mean, why worship just a male god? You know, that's just half the world. You know, where's the other half?
We know that the ultimate mother spirit is the Holy Spirit, which is Ruach of the Most High. It's not Ashtoreth, the wife of Yahweh. We know Yahweh to be of the fallen one. All right. So another thing, someone just asked about the Queen Mother of Heaven. I want to just make that at this time when it was spoken of in Jeremiah 44, it was Semiramis, the mother of Nimrod, or the virgin child Tammuz. Now these are virgin children before there was any such thing as Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a very old myth. Yeah. And,
so I just want to put that out there. And listen, we know that Christ had a father. His name is Joseph. The Bible tells you, he gives the lineage right there in the same chapter. So let's get out of that real quick, and let me ask you this real quick, because I know the phones are ringing off the hook, and many people want to ask you questions. A matter of fact, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Why don't we open it up so that other people can ask questions? Because I can go all day, but for those who just came in, you wouldn't believe some of the things that came out in this discussion. And what's good is we were able to discuss without condescending, attacking each other. Yes,
absolutely.
We disagree, but the whole deal is I needed him to come out to show you that the pagans is really, if you want to ask, know the truth, is the mother of Christianity. She spawned Christianity.
And we pagans would be the first to agree with that.
No, this is what I'm saying. And for Christians to come off in a condescending and a pompous way, as if they control the way of truth, and don't even know that you learned paganism out of slavery, people. When this world was colonized, you were given paganism.
Well, brought it too, because don't forget about Vodun and Santeria. Those are, even though they're saints, they're still very similar to what we practice. And
absolutely.
many deities.
Absolutely. And
you know, there are a lot of you know, we consider
and our
them,
people got to get it together. We
consider them sister states. Yeah.
What I want to put out there is our people have to come back to the God that's part of the Red Sea. There was many gods in Egypt while our people were enslaved in Egypt. Okay, there was paganism there, but our God showed to be the God of gods. Now, people can make a choice to follow whatever God they want, but at the end, prophecy will stand. And I want to say this. We are the children of Israel. I want to say this. And we, regardless of what's out there and what we have obtained in this world, we must come back to the true God. We must come back to the God who put us in these conditions for our disobedience of running to the Queen Mother of Heaven. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
Well, naturally, that's a different perspective, but let's open
Yeah, that's different, but I wanted to put it out there that we were able to have a discussion, and man, you came with some stuff today. The fact that Islam began in straight paganism, and they would tell you, they would try to convert people claiming that they're the way.
Yeah, everybody does, and all monotheists, monotheist faiths.
Paganism is a bad rap. It seems like people stealing all your rituals and stealing your holy days, but yet don't want to give you any credit. What's going on with that?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on with that? People need to open it up a little more and be a little more celebratory and tolerant.
Okay.
But let's see what's
do you mind answering a few questions from the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's turn this over to Brother Gocc, and I'll just end it with a few scriptures to end it after. But I thank him for being kind, coming on, and giving his aspect and broadening the perspective so that we can leave our narrow minds to understand what these religions are really about. And I hope a lot of Christians out there are out there. Listen, you wake up. All right, Gocc, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can just put me on. I'll be on mute, okay? Because I want to hear some of these questions. Where's Brother Gocc? Is he still with us?
Hello?
Oh, okay, there you go. You didn't fall asleep on me, did you?
No, man, no. I can't sleep for this show. Hey, let me add to what you just said. Steve Rasmussen, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Yeah.
It's been very enlightening, and I'm sure that the listeners here who are tuning in have a lot of questions also that they'd like to ask. All right. First, we're gonna go to the phone lines right now. We have our brother Lexwell here. Brother Lexwell, let me bring him in.
Hey, shalom, brothers. How we doing?
Shalom, man. How are you?
Hey, God, I heard the show yesterday. It was great.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a prototype show. We're trying to build it up, you know.
Oh, yeah, that was cool, man. It was very cool.
Man, bless, man. And how's everything on your side?
Hey, man, going downhill fast, but I'm smiling. All
right, man, cool. You want to put your question or a comment?
Yeah, actually, man, there's so much covered, man. I don't even know where to start. Hi, Stephen. How you doing, man?
Hi, doing good. Thanks.
Hey, that's good. Hey, now, not to be rude, I was listening and I thought I heard the final statement of, the which God do you serve, and I thought that I heard you say that you didn't know.
No, I didn't say that.
Sorry.
No, we were talking about the origins of the gods, and I said that's something that's I'm not sure any human could pretend to know, and it would be arrogant of me to presume. But no, I know very well which gods I worship. Yeah, and there's more than one, and they're very very helpful, efficacious. They answer prayers. They give me faith and hope, and all the things that people say about Jesus, Jesus and Mary, and and Yahweh, and I would venture to say even y'all's experience with Ahaya. Really we feel the same way about our deities, that they're there to help us, and they do.
Right.
You probably had a question behind that, right?
Well, could I read something to you?
Sure.
This is from a book called The Satan Hunter.
The Satan Hunter.
Yes, The Satan Hunter by Thomas W. Wedge with Robert L. Powers. Okay, now these are ex-policemen, and they would go to crimes, and, they would talk about how if satanic crimes were committed, that they would be covered up to keep the public calm.
Oh, that's a fallacy. What year was that book published? First published.
1990, copyright 1988 by Thomas Wedge.
I knew it. See, that's right. When all that, like Geraldo Rivera was trying to do a show on that. That was a big thing going on right then. Was the claim that there were all these satanic murders going on and being covered up, and finally the FBI started investigating, and they found absolutely no evidence whatsoever of it, and they found that children were being coached in these so-called memories they were having of satanic abuse.
What do you mean, like kids on milk cartons, or which kids?
Kids that were testifying that supposedly the Satan worshippers had come and taken them to this island, and they'd had to witness these flesh-eating rituals and all this wild stuff. And the FBI found that the handful of people were really, kind of like coaching them to believe this stuff and to say this sort of thing. And they have never once found any evidence for any of that. And we know of no one who's ever done that. It was really just kind of a hoax that was ginned up in the late 1980s, and partly thanks to Geraldo Rivera, a real noted scholar.
Is it I'm sorry, is it okay if I read this a little?
That's just, before you even read that, that's why I wanted to know what year it was written. Because, that was right about the time when I was receiving my training initially as a priest and as a Wiccan priest. And we actually, the coven I belonged to, the high priest actually went on TV a few times there on the West Coast where I lived, and to kind of deal with those rumors and lies is what they were really. But they made some people a lot of money, like probably the authors of this book. So I'm sorry to kind of put that down like that, but that's really what was going on at the time.
Technically, you don't even know what I'm going to read, but it's.
Oh, I don't. But so yeah, let me go ahead and let you read that. Go right ahead.
Interesting and articulate white witches, meaning good witches, who agreed to answer my questions were the husband and wife singing team who identified themselves as Kenny and Tripazora, or something of that nature. They were making a living as mainstream folk musicians who sell to the general public. But Kenny adds that they were also Wiccan or pagan. Trapazora defines Wiccan as a wise one who shapes things. The Wiccan religion is based on natural cycles of the earth and all things related celestially. We work with seasons and phases of the moon with multiple facets of creating energy, which we term God and goddesses. Kenny interrupts his wife to give his definition of paganism in general. We worship the Creator, just like any Christian or Jew, but we see the Creator as all things as being both male and female, meaning androgynous. It's not written in, I'm just saying that. Since life was both created by male and female, we term the female aspect of creation of creation as the goddess, while the male aspect is the God. We do not see the goddess and the God as being above in the heavens, but being all around us in the earth. Kenny says the difference between dark and white crafts is night and day. He adds, during the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church wanted to erase any religion that was not Catholicism. I just want to skip down. Our God has horns because he represents both people and horned animals. There are many names for our God, who is called in general terms the horned God. Many cultures with many languages knew him, so there are many names. among them are Pan,
Cernunnos.
Mars. So you understand what this is saying. Mars, Zeus.
Yeah, and so far, he's right on everything. Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. I mean, I know.
We do not worship many gods, but rather one God and one goddess, which have many names. Now,
I'm sorry, read that part again.
It says we do not worship many gods, but rather one God and one goddess who have many names.
That's how a lot of Wiccans view it, yeah. And
Hey, Lex Will, real quick. Let me ask him, because that information came out as profound.
I know, right?
No. Let me ask you, Steve. Is Zeus one of these gods? Like when the ancient Romans and Greeks worshiped Zeus, would that be the pagan god Pan also?
That's what this book is saying.
No, I'm asking him if that's what he knows.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of people would say that, but I think I personally, based on my experience and study, I think that's overgeneralizing. I think that, ultimately they're all one, but then ultimately all humans are one humanity, right? We're all one people. I mean,
but
practically identical. But yet there's different cultures, we have different names, we have different faces, So, we're all one, but we're also different, and that's...
Yeah, but I'm asking you in specific, in ancient Rome, when they was worshiping Zeus, is that synonymous with Pan?
Sometimes they, in certain places, they worshipped, what they call them, like Hermes. I mean, there were certain places where they had, where they saw Hermes and Zeus as the same god, but most of the time, I think they saw them as separate. They're closely tied to the astrological planets. Zeus is Jupiter, the planet Jupiter.
Yeah.
And
so I'm asking,
Mercury, Hermes is
one of the gods. Let me ask you in another way. Is Zeus one of the gods that you acknowledge today?
We don't really call him Zeus, although that name comes from Deus, that same universal term, Diao, Iau, that was about earlier.
Because I know that Jesus, the word Jesus, actually comes from Zeus too.
Yeah, it comes from the same root. Yeah. And it's all that universal name, that universal vowel spectrum, as we call it.
But what I want to ask you,
we often do pray and do spells to Jupiter, the astrological planet, which we do see as a god. Most of us, we see the planets as animated by
the reason
as
I
gods.
Real quick, and I'll yield, is because I wanted to put that out there when that Zeus popped out at me, and I did the research. Come to find out, the Roman Catholics under Constantine, that they actually changed Christ's name to Zeus. That was a deity that was in ancient Rome. That because there was no J's in the Hebrew language. So I want to put that out there that whether
I think to them it was a Yehoshua.
Yeah, some say Yehoshua. The ancient is Yeshaya, but there was no J's. That's why when you speak to Spanish people, you ask them, well, what's Jesus' name? They say Jesus.
Yeah.
So it's really synonymous with the same God of the pagan.
Well, the word origin is, yeah.
I just need to hit that part. Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna turn it back over. Go ahead, Lex.
Hold up. Let's just on hold real quick. We have another caller from the UK coming in. We have Brother Josh on. Brother Josh, can you hear me?
Shalom. Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, brother. I'm hearing you. Go through. Do you have a question or a comment, real quick?
Both really. I'm gonna have to talk pretty quickly because my battery on my phone is about to die. So I just want to run through this little bit of information that I have here in front of me, what I've just been writing down as I've been listening to the show. Now, could I ask Steve, just before I go through this quickly, have you heard of Madame Blavatsky?
Oh, Madame Blavatsky, yes. Yeah, there's a controversial figure.
Okay, well, just for the benefit of the listeners, her full name is Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Yeah.
Petrovna, yeah.
Now, Okay, she was a witch. She lived during the time of 1831 to 1891.
She would not have a witch.
Pardon?
She would not have called herself a witch.
Okay, maybe so, but according to my research, I found out that she dealt with the occult, and
yes.
she's the founder of the Theosophical Society.
That's true, yeah.
Okay, now what she's really responsible for, in layman's terms, is bringing these different segments of Satanism together to unify them. Because the Bible itself tells us that there's many gods in the earth, and all the gods of the nations, and nothing but idols. That's what the Bible tells us. Now, if you actually look at this society in particular, the seal that they've incorporated with it, yeah? Now, let me describe this, yeah? Imagine you've got the Star of David. That's the center of the seal, yeah? Inside of the Star of the David, you've got an anchor, which is the cross with, like, the circle bit on top of it. Mm-hmm. That's in the middle of the Star of David, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, around the star, you've got a Ouroboros. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, very sacred symbol, ancient, yeah.
Which is a snake, which is a highly satanic symbol. And
no, not at all. It represents eternity. It's like cycles.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It actually represents procreation as well.
It has a lot of meanings. You can even see it on your computer when a Java program is running. Yeah. Little circle going around, eating itself. It represents time and eternity, which consumes itself.
Exactly. It's philosophy. That's what it is. A lot of people could attach a lot of different things to it.
Yeah.
This is my point at the top. Let me just get this out. So like I said, my battery's going to die here, so I do apologize if I'm speaking over you. At the top of this seal, you've got a symbol called Aum. Have you heard of that? It's a seal that the Hindus use.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, my point is, in this seal, they've thrown a lot of things together, and this is this is the symbol that we can hold alongside the Theosophical Society. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this organization was formed in 1875. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And basically, yeah, it's the spiritual principles and search for truth. This is where the word theosophical comes from. It comes from the Greek word theosophy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, theosophy.
God, I believe.
Pardon?
I think it means theo means God or deity, and sophos means knowledge. I think, if I've got it right.
Wisdom, exactly. The goddess Sophia, who you can find in the Gnostics.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, and it comes from. Now, theosophy actually comes from. It's a system, esoteric philosophy. This is where it comes from. You can attach alchemy to it, astrology, spiritualism, Satanism. Now this is my point. This is the point I want to make before my phone goes dead. Yeah, we can go to and fro talking about good witches and bad witches and what sort of pagan establishment people out there in today's day and age are attached to. But it's got a head, and the head of all these societies. There is sat a God who is diverting all worship to himself. Yeah? And this God is what we know in the Bible as Lucifer, Satan. Yeah? But let me tell you, Satan is just the title. Yeah? There's Satans in this earth today. And these Satans in the earth today, notice that plural, are the evil spirits that are caught up in this world, who we know, according to the Bible, have proceeded, from the bodies of giants, according to Genesis chapter 6 in the Bible. So until we know the origins of these gods that we're following, we shouldn't be following them.
Well, who are you going to believe, though? I mean, I don't believe a bunch of scribes who had an agenda, and their agenda was to trash everybody else's religion. And I also know for a fact that there is no Satan running Theosophy or Wicca or anything else like that.
Now, do you know what? Can I just say as much?
Josh, let me say something real quick, and I want and I'm gonna let you come back in, Josh, because this is what I want Steve to understand, and maybe he'll take this back with him a little bit. You have to realize, Steve, and I'm not here to preach to you tonight because we really brought you on the back of this minister who didn't know that Christianity foundation is paganism. But I want to say something. You have to realize that he wasn't always Satan. That's why I asked you, and I had the knowledge of the origin of spirits when I asked you the question. Because I ask other pagans the same thing. What is the origin of these gods you worshiping? Because I know they do things for you, but if you don't know the origin, you can't say for sure what they're not.
But
and I'm going to
really
say
know
this.
the origin of the Bible. I mean, that's
I'm
the
saying,
problem there. You know,
let me make my point, because I can answer those questions if you really want to get the answers to them. My point is, you have to realize when he fell, he wasn't Satan. He was Lucifer originally. And he tempted with good and evil.
And that's according to one mythology,
So let me say this. So even when you go into witchcraft, which our people were forbidden to deal with, but the Gentiles were dealing with it. When you go into witchcraft, of course there's good and evil witchcraft. Why? Because that is the tree that was presented. So yeah, there's going to be a good part. But there's a very dark part too, and it's one God over both parts. My problem now is, and maybe we can talk about this, is the same way Christians are denying their origin of paganism. Pagans are denying their origin God, which is the fallen and
deny the origin
Lucifer.
that's attributed to us by Christians or by the Bible, and we dispute. The scientists.
But I go beyond the Bible scrolls because I go into the scrolls before they were translated.
Well, nevertheless,
the Bible is just an English translation of these scrolls. But I speak Hebrew. I went into the Hebrew scrolls. I got the Hebrew scrolls.
Right, but that's still the same people trying to push the same monotheistic agenda.
Well, you notice I didn't push it.
No, the same.
We have to still have
saying
conversation.
That's the only way. Everybody else is evil, anybody who does anything else, their way is mixed with evil, but our way is pure. Well, why we don't skip a single book. We don't think one book can give us the truth, and
I understand
a book that advertises itself as that. That's just, you can advertise anything and people will believe you. But is it really? Well, we test it against our experience of the world. We test it against what science is learning about the world, and we find that it's, the truth is just a lot deeper than that. It's a compendium of many sources, the Bible is, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And it's convenient and easy to think it is to have that one answer for everything, like having one instruction manual. That's great if you got one computer, but what if you got a bunch of different computers that you got to fix? Then there's going to be a bunch of different instruction manuals, and that's just the nature of the universe. It's diverse. It's poly. It's not mono. So that's how we feel about it. And people are always trying to accuse us of being evil or dabbling with something dark. But we know better than that because we have the courage to actually explore the occult and find that it's not as scary as people think. People shut it off because it's powerful. They wall it off because it's powerful, but it's powerful because it reaches into your very heart. It's founded on love. It's founded on harmony and the principles, the same principles in music. That's what the occult is based on. I'll just put that out there. That would take a whole other show.
Brother, real quick, I like to say this because, listen, like I said earlier, I'm not here to accuse you of anything. Oh, I told you we disagree with this from the beginning. But what I'm saying, listen, but I humbly respect the fact that you are willing to admit what you're dealing with. But like I said, I wanted to put it out there that there's two sides to the tree of good and evil. So usually, you know what, and it's ironic myself, and I'm going to let Josh back in. I'm glad he called. Ironically, since I have dealt with pagans, because I've dealt with Christians too, I've never met a pagan witch who said that they were one of the bad ones. They all said
I've never met a Christian.
That they were good. You understand? So, but yet, when I asked the question that can it be used for evil, everyone said the same thing. Yeah. But I haven't met a bad witch yet who have admitted it. So what I'm saying is, according to what we believe and we have the right to, if we don't do, of course it's powerful. Lucifer once was a high archangel next to the Most High himself.
Step away from that mythology. Step into something deeper is what I'm saying.
Brother,
you can find...
Brother, when you talk about Pan, don't you know Pan is written in Greek and Roman mythology?
It means, Pan, the word means all, yeah.
I'm saying, I ain't talking about the word. So if you want to talk about mythology, I can pull up to Roman mythology and Latin mythology right now, and every name you mention is in Greek mythology. So you can't say, let's step out of mythology when everything you said tonight was part of ancient Greek and Roman myths. No,
it's not just. It's reflected there, but it's also based on experience, on my experience.
But
and,
we have,
that's the ultimate test.
Steve, we have experiences too, though.
Yeah, and I bet they're not that from mine.
And our experiences just don't come from us believing something that we're reading.
Well, I would hope
not.
You have to
understand. By the same token, how you've seen your God, we've seen the power of our God. So there's a mutual respect here. We can have a conversation, but you just can't push off what we believe is myth because we have seen greater things, brother.
But you're speaking now from your experience, your personal experience. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But when you start talking about pagans dabbling with Lucifer, that's not in your experience. That's just that's what a book tells you.
But my experience confirms the book.
In many parts, but it won't confirm that part. I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you it will not.
I guarantee you that book confirms our part. And let me say this, brother, and I just wanted to put this out there when it comes to mythology. Let's put that to the side, because everything I've spoken to you was based on knowledge and understanding all night, and history all night. So let's not just push it off. The Bible is not just a mythological book. Okay? And that brings the disagreement, because now you are doing what you claim Christians been doing. Let's just say what you believe, and we believe what we believe. Now, whether or not you would want to accept that, listen, if your God did all these good things for you and was Satan, it wouldn't be a big deal, because that's your God.
Well, Satan's not our God. That's a Christian God, and maybe Muslim too. But
listen. If you believe Satan is a myth, what's the big deal?
Well, I wouldn't want to believe in a myth. I mean, something that's merely a myth. It wouldn't do me much good, would it?
All right. Well, let's let it be. I'm going to yield because I came into Josh, but I couldn't hold myself. I'm going to restrain. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's cool, man. It's all good. Yeah, Steve, I just want to make clear, like, I haven't called in today to attack paganism in any way, shape, or form. Well, the reason why I called in is to give and to share my understanding with you and the listeners in terms of what I've discovered through research, and a lot of my research has led to this Madame Blavatsky.
Well, she's a figure, but not a Satan worshiper. No.
Okay, well, I'll tell you the information that I've got on her. I know that Hitler respected a lot of her writings a huge amount. He even said in one of his speeches that we will wash off the Christian veneer. They use Christianity as a way to go to war. Now, I'm going to end very, very quickly because I just want to get this point out. Yeah. Now, one of Madame Blavatsky's predecessors, she's called Alice A. Bailey. Yeah.
Oh,
she's
Alice
actually
Bailey, yeah.
she plays. You've heard of her? She plays some part in United Nations today. Yeah. She's a woman quite. Yeah. If you look it up, you'll find out she's quite a big head.
Okay.
Yeah. Now,
decades.
let me cutting back to the point. Yeah. One of her 10 strategies. Yeah. For implementing, and I'll call it Satanism because I am entitled to my belief, and that is what I believe ultimately it is. Yeah. But all these spirits that are in the earth, according to my understanding and belief, are from Satan. Yeah, all the spirits in the earth today being worshipped. Yeah, now
that's rather prejudice.
Now,
well,
like I said, it's my opinion, but let me just focus on these strategies that she wanted to implement. Yeah, one of them is push God out of the schools. Yeah, it says people must be free to abort unwanted children. If a man can have sex and then live without the consequences, then the same should be true for a woman. Yeah, and I'm not going to read through all 10, but I'll come
you can
to...
tie anything together and make out a big conspiracy about it, but it's really...
guys, let me just make a quick announcement real quick. We're down to the final 10 minutes of the live show. We're going to go into overtime after the 10 minutes, so for the people tuning in, via the Skype, now would be a good time to Skype in, or you can call in. You're locked into the Search Engine International. I'm your host, Gaja. We have Elder Rakar. We have Steve Rasmussen, who's a pagan, and we have Brother Josh on the phone lines at this minute. What else? Did I miss anything? Well, yes, we have a few more callers here that's waiting to come in. We have 9 minutes left. Sorry, Brother Josh, I'll put it back to you.
Right, one of the last points I'm going to make real quick because my phone is about to die now. One of her points that she's been quoted to have said is diffuse religious radicalism, destroy Christianity. Christianity says that Jesus is the only way. Diffuse this by A, silencing Christianity, and B, by promoting other faiths, the creation of interfaith harmony. Yeah? And the last point, and like I said, I haven't gone through all 10 points, the last point says, and it does talk about the homosexual agenda also, the last point says, in this 10-point plan, which Madame Blavatsky has written, says, get the church to endorse every one of these 9 strategies, get the church to accept these principles, and say that they are okay. Then legal ground is given for these values to get a foothold. And I think this has a lot to do with the question that Elder Rakar asked in opposed to, okay, when did pagans begin to lift up their head again? When did they stop getting thrown on the fire, so to speak? Because we know that history speaks of this, and now people have the right to practice whatever faith or religion that they want. It's that simple, and all I'm saying is the reason why I brought them points out, so I don't want to go to and fro with you and on and on and on, because
I doubt she wrote any of those things. That sounds like Protocols of the Elder of Zion stuff. You know, I mean, there's a whole right-wing industry devoted to manufacturing that kind of propaganda and tying it all together into one world conspiracy. You know, when really there are much more obvious and dangerous conspiracies going on in the headlines every day. But anyway, go on.
Okay, well, no, that's it. And I just wanted to, and I'll say it again. If anybody wants to research this for themselves, if it's your opinion that it's a conspiracy, then by all means you're entitled to that you're entitled to that opinion. But what I find very interesting, and the reason why I brought that information forth, is because these 10 strategies of nearly almost every single one of them have been enforced.
Well, somebody
even
probably
to the point,
wrote
even to the point where pardon?
Well, people tend to write those things after the fact and then claim that they were written earlier as a big plan, you know. But yeah, that's how a lot of stuff is. So yeah. But
again, I understand what angle you're coming from, but you need to understand who's really going to achieve anything by doing that. I mean, this has been written, yes. I claim that I know who's written it, and you can say, well, you didn't see her write it. It could have been anyone. It could have been written after these things.
I would go to Madame Blavatsky's own writings and be sure that that it's actually written and published by her, not this second level stuff where people claim to be quoting. You know, you always go to the primary source. Always, that's advice with rumors. Always check with the source. You know, call the person they're talking about and say, did you really say that? You know, instead of just going around saying, oh, so-and-so said, you know. But that's really where, you know, I think a lot of that stuff comes from. Is,
have you actually researched her for yourself? Can you tell me anything about her?
I have my own problems with theosophy. I think it's very, very white, you know, white biased and biased against black people. It's got that whole Aryan tinge to it, you know, the superior white race. But that's a whole.
Do you believe that there is a superior white race in the earth today who could possibly be in control of it? Well, again, I suggest that would be another thing that you'd have to look at in order to come to do you know what I mean? A sort of accurate decision of whether this is actually a conspiracy or not. In order to do that, I find the best way is trying to put pieces of the jigsaw together and see if you can see the overall picture.
You have to be careful where you get those pieces from, because there's a lot of people claiming that, you know, claiming to put them together when they're actually just trying to fit them into a preconceived agenda. I mean, if you want to see what's going on in the world today, just follow the headlines with Wall Street and the centralization of financial power, you know, and basically we really are being run by just a handful of, well, you know, like they say, 1%, actually 0.1% of the planet, you know, but they're in it purely for the greed, purely for that materialism I was talking about earlier. I don't think they care whose temple they worship in. They just care about the money and the real estate that temple's built on that they want to buy and sell.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying it's not such an overwhelming thing to maybe comprehend that there is a minority of people who happen to be white in this earth today, who are in dominant control of it. Now, colour's irrelevant for me. I'm just saying it could be. It could be. Now, in order to find out, we need to apply a lot of research. Now, of course, you need to sift it through. Of course, there's a lot of lies out there. But what I'm saying is, ultimately, my point was today, paganism is the same thing, and it's practiced on different levels. And if you find the root of paganism, you're saying, on one hand, you're saying Christianity, yeah, may worship Satan. But all the ceremonial dates that Christians are dealing with comes from paganism, yet you're not accepting the fact that paganism ultimately could be paying homage to Satan as well. Unknowingly, ignorantly, by dealing with different spirits, you may be paying homage to a different god. And that's what I don't understand, but I'll let you answer that, but I'm coming off the line now. My phone is about to die, and I'm calling from the UK, so I'm going to have to go. But thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening. Okay, Steve, thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Some guy just said okay, we got a lot of people in queue, so we need to keep on going. But I know right now, Lex Will is busting right now. I know Lex Will is like, man, I wish I had a couple more minutes. I know he want to come in, but Lex, I'm feeling you out there. All right. Who we have coming on next? Gotcha.
Okay. We had brother Lex Will that was wasn't finished, so I'm going to bring him back. He gave way to Josh, being that Josh was calling from the UK.
How you guys doing again?
Brother Lexwell.
But I'm going to say, I want to say this too. Also, Steve was nice enough to come on the show, and I like the way the show is going. Make sure the majority of people, probably everyone that come on is not going to agree with him. We all know that, but let's make sure we're respectful, because later on down the line, we're going to need him as a if he decides to stay with what he's dealing with. I would love to call him in when we're dealing with the Christian. You understand, and he can be he can be our pagan. He can be our pagan expert. So just be respectful. All right. Who you have next?
Okay. For the listeners, to let you know, we're going over into the overtime show, and for the record as well, this has been the largest listenership of this show since I've been doing it, that I've seen on it. Thank you everyone who's tuned in. Once again, Steve, thank you for coming on. It's been enlightening. All right, you locked into the Search Engine International. I'm your host, Brother Gaja. We're doing the final hour now in overtime. All right, Brother Lexwell.
Yes, sir. Hey, when we left off, man, we just talked about that the Wiccans worship. They do not worship many gods, but rather one god and one goddess with many names, meaning Pan, Kronos, Mars, Zeus, Apollo, Thor, and Odin. Now, when we switch to the book of Revelation, many people do not believe Zeus is in the Bible, but he actually is. And this is why the Bible is a study guide, and it's very interesting. Revelation chapter 2, 11 through 13, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. And to the angel of the church of Pergamos write, these things saith he which hath the sharp sword with two edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. Now, right there, if you said you had your computer, Stephen, if you type in Satan's seat, Pergamos, into Google, and you hit images, it will show you the gigantic seat of Zeus in Pergamos, in the old world.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, the Christians would have tried to tar it as the seat of Satan, even if it was actually the seat of Zeus. I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that
books, this thing.
Somebody calls you a communist doesn't mean you really are one.
Understand, okay, look, earlier you said you guys
Hey, Steve, just say hypothetically, Lex, I'm going to let you come in. Just say hypothetically that Zeus was the Christian Satan. I mean, would that change anything with you? If you knew that was Satan, would that change whether or not you would be a pagan?
Well, that's like saying, just hypothetically, if 1 were 2, or if 7 were 12, then, I mean, that's it's like, well, in reality, I think that, like the early Christians were applying the term Satan to every other god but theirs. I mean, according to them, every other deity was an aspect of Satan. But Steve,
I'm trying to get a specific answer. We know what the Christians did. I'm asking you. If you knew that his name was Satan based on everything this religion has given you, would that make a difference to you whether it was Mars, Zeus, Pan, or Satan? Would that make a difference to you?
If you mean the Christian Satan,
they're all the same, brother.
No. Because it seems like your problem is how the Christians is demeaning your gods or gods. I'm not even going there. I'm just asking you, if it was Satan, based on everything they've done for you, would it make a difference to you?
Well, that's like asking if your God were Satan, would that make a difference to you? I mean,
absolutely, it would make a difference to me.
But it's not, I mean, it's.
I'm saying, but Absolutely. If I found out my God, like when I was a Christian, and I found out growing up in Christianity that it was paganism, and I looked up paganism in the original religions, and I found out the origin of the Bible is absolutely against these different gods. So I believe every god, the worshiping of more than one god, is Satanism in itself. Because
well, then that's where we part ways. Because I don't believe that. I believe that's monopoly, monotheism.
Exactly. So that's all I wanted to say. All right, go ahead, Lex. I'm done. All right.
Here, you guys had mentioned aliens, and Stephen, you had said they don't come when you call like the gods.
Well, that's I mean, you know, that's kind of something we joke about, but it's kind of true too. But we do believe. I mean, you know,
on that statement
itself, my wife has seen some extraterrestrial craft, so no doubt they're out there. I believe they probably are pagan too. You know, I believe they probably worship many gods themselves. I mean, it's a huge universe. You know, it's a lot of different galaxies within galactic clusters, within, you know, just far vaster than we can comprehend. And for us to say that every conscious being out there worships the same deity in the same way as us is just enormous hubris and very, you know, kind of immature, I think, honestly. But that's, you know, but it's only in the last, 40 years that people have even begun to accept the idea that there might actually be other life, extraterrestrial life out there. So I think it's just going to take people a while to get used to the notion that there are many, many, many ways of worshiping the divine. I think, you know, probably a culture that's that advanced has probably already realized that, and you know, but I also want to say that there are also some religions, like there's one called the Raelians, that believes that all the gods were actually aliens that came to Earth in the past, you know, kind of like in Stargate, right, and controlled and taught people and all this stuff, and we don't believe that.
Or kind of like in Enoch when it says the Watchers went against the will and came to Earth.
Well, I know the Bible has some really puzzling quotes in it. I'm not ruling out. You know, no Wiccan would rule out that there have been extraterrestrial visits. We wouldn't say that maybe some of them did become worshipped as gods, but what we're saying is that to say that all gods were actually extraterrestrials is just materialism. That's just reductionism. It's just saying, you know, well, there's no such thing as the divine. It was all just...
Well, not really on the alien comment, on the God comment, because you said the aliens don't come when you call like the gods do.
Right, I did say that, and
Have you read, say, anything about King Solomon and how he called the demons before him?
Oh, yeah, there's actually one of the earliest...
Is there any correlation going on right now that you can think of, meaning you're not calling gods? See, if they were gods, they wouldn't beckon at humans' call. See, is there anything that just from this...
Maybe they just don't want us to attack them with our, you know, jet planes like we tend to do.
What I'm saying is maybe with the idea of the Tales of Solomon, do you realize that not gods that you're calling demons, just like in the Tales of Solomon?
You're assuming that everything is to be put into one of two boxes. Here's the good box, here's the evil box. The world just doesn't work that way. There are many spirits. Some of them are...
Hey, Lex Will.
Yes, sir.
God.
Lex Will. I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that back up. Hold up, Steve, because the reason I asked is because something in Scripture that Steve probably never seen, and I wanted to bring it up so Steve can look at it. And I want to read it real quick in Acts the 14th chapter when Paul was teaching to the Greeks and Romans. He was teaching to Gentiles who were pagans.
Oh, right. Is that on the Hill of Mars, I think, or in Athens?
No, not that one in particular.
Okay.
But there was a Hill of Mars there. In Acts the 14th chapter, in the 9th verse it says, "Then the same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, Stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted their voices, saying in a speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. And they called Barnabas Jupiter, and Paul Mercurius, which is Mercury, because he was the chief speaker."
That passage? Huh. I'll have to look that up.
Listen. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before the city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, would have done sacrifice with the people. Now, these are pagan origin, which when the apostle Barnabas and Paul heard, they rent their clothes and ran among the people, crying out and saying, Sirs, why do you these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that you should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things that are therein. So what Paul was showing was they wanted to give him homage because they seen Paul do miracles before their eyes that only the gods could do. But what this is showing is that ancient pagans had the knowledge of fallen deities or deities coming down from the sky to show power before men. And today they would call that what? Aliens or so-called UFOs. I'm just bringing this in. No.
Let me point out
I'm going to let you point it out, but let me finish my statement. What I'm saying is, one thing that some people out there, and I'm not saying Steve, but some are doing, and maybe Steve don't even know what's going on with this, is that they fragmented what paganism was originally so that you cannot know the origin. Like all these things are intertwined. Everything we see within the earth, there's nothing that can't be identified. Everything has an origin and it's all connected. There's no thing where something might be out there and maybe these some beings out there. No. Everything, the whole universe is attached, including what we see, which what they call unidentified. But who can identify it? The scriptures, the ancient scriptures can identify them. They're fallen angels. And they're being worshipped. Now, I'm saying this because you mentioned earlier, Steve, that you didn't know the origin of them. I'm just putting it out there so that you can do the research.
I said that I wouldn't presume to know. I wouldn't presume that I knew. And I think anyone who does is really overreaching. But let me point out about the gods coming into men. That's actually something that is commonly done in pagan religions, is to call down the gods into oneself. Witches call it drawing down the moon or drawing down the sun. In Vodun, they call it being ridden by the Loas. And and it's all around the world in pagan religions. There are different ways of being inhabited by the gods so that you can do those kinds of healing acts and healing works. So probably what they were thinking was, these people have, they may be priests of Jupiter or Mercurius who have, called that god into them. But it's not an alien.
Well, obviously, Steve, he was a high priest. Obviously, he's in the same position you're in. So
and he may have thought, just like I called down Jupiter into me,
what I'm saying.
He called Jupiter into himself.
Okay, but listen to what I'm saying. Notice. Don't just overlook this. Notice what Paul said to him.
Yeah, he said, no, I'm not. I'm worshiper of this God. Yeah.
No. Listen, he acknowledged the gods that they were dealing with as far as the existence of them. He didn't say they didn't exist. What he told them, that step away from them to serve the living God. There is a God who created these gods you're worshiping. And that's what I'm saying. Just don't be too closed-minded. I'm not coming at you as a Christian.
I'm not ruling that out either, but I'm saying that...
Oh, okay, all right. That's all I'm saying. Let's just keep the door open. All right, I'm going to yield now. I'm yielding.
I will point out that we actually do, in the Wiccan tradition, have a name for the God who's the origin of all things, which I don't even know, we don't even call it a God, it's beyond that, kind of the principle, the all-pervading, the all-knowing, ever-present, and we call it the Drighton, which is an old Anglo-Saxon word that some people think originally meant Lord, but... and
it sounds like dragon.
Well, yeah, it's spelled Dryghton, and so it's one of those old, probably they pronounced it Drichton, but...
the revelation, he's cast out of heaven, brother.
Not that at all. That's an English word, dragon. That's totally different. It just sounds, the word just sounds the same, but it's not. It's from a totally different origin than dragon. But yeah, anyway, we do have the concept of, the all-pervading, the all-knowing, the all-powerful. But to us, that principle, and I see this around me, that principle, that being, that one, is so vast and so, in so many ways, so remote. That
let me jump in real quick, brother Lexwell.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I want to bring in a few more callers real quick because we're running out of time on the overtime. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, brother Lexwell, and let me just bring in the next caller real quick. Okay. All right. We have brother it's a brother Kamar with a comment. Let's get that real quick. We have about less than 40 minutes to go.
Shalom, Brother Gaja, Brother Steve, and Elder Rakar. I just wanted to bring a little out. First, I wanted to thank you guys for bringing this show to the forefront. And secondly, I wanted to thank Stephen for his candor when dealing with this situation. But what I wanted to go into, I wanted to ask a question as well. Actually, a couple of questions, and I'll make them short and read a little something as well. But the question I wanted to ask was, are the wearing and use, or even unwittingly use of the symbols in paganism actually opening up the bearers of these symbols to control or manipulation of these many beings or spirits?
No, we think of the pentagram as a protective symbol. It's like a hand, a five-fingered hand that averts evil. And in fact, they used to carve it on churches back in the Middle Ages for the same reason. So it's a protective thing. It's actually the opposite of that. It helps protect us from negative energy, people's hate and the evil eye, whatever you want to call it. So it's actually the other way around from that.
Okay, when you brought up that deity that you were talking about, you said you made reference to a principle. Now, we study the records of our forefathers, and we were just talking about Paul. And Paul wrote in Ephesians 6:12, "For we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world."
I'm sorry, not that kind of principle. A principle, and that's just one word for it. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, what are you going to call it? It's the all, the everything.
Okay, but would you call those spirits principalities or location? Where are they located? The powers, or what would you call these spirits?
That goes back to in ancient the Neoplatonic philosophers in ancient Roman times, right before Christianity. They several of them kind of saw or developed this whole hierarchy of spirits. The idea was that just as there are, I think the idea was just as there are hierarchies on Earth, like there's an emperor, and then there's princes, and then there's all these different provinces and that sort of thing, that there must be the same way in the heavens, so there are principalities and there are powers, and they all have this rule and so forth. And it's kind of really what it all kind of, just to cut through everything, what it all kind of comes back to is the astrological planets, because usually they come back to 7 of them, and each of those 7 correlate to one of the astrological principles. Like Mars is the principle of aggression, Saturn.
Okay.
control, that sort of thing. Now I'm using principle LE, okay?
Yeah, I understand. But you didn't let me finish the verse. It says, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Mars, i.e. Jupiter, i.e. all of those other celestial bodies, as you call them, are high places. I wanted to go into something as well. You're familiar with the prophet Enoch?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, and this alludes to what the elder was talking about earlier, just to piggyback off of him and Brother Lex will. In the book of Enoch, chapter 8, verse 1 through 4, and I'll read it really quickly, it says, and Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them of metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. Verse 2, and there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. Verse 3, some Jahza taught enchantments and root cuttings, Amaros, the resolving of enchantments, Barachiel taught astrology, Kokabel, the constellations, Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds, Arachiel, the signs of the earth, Shamshamel, the signs of the sun, and Sariel, the course of the moon. As men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. The reason I brought that out is because those all seem to be the model of paganism as far as root cuttings and signs and astrological signs and all of those things. Could you expound on that a little bit?
There are a lot of, you look in a lot of different indigenous religions, and they'll say, this is the spirit that taught that, and this is the spirit that taught that, and they're names for the gods that rule those things. In paganism,
I know they differ, but
what they're really, so what they're basically what they'll do in these Old Testament passages, they'll take that and stick it in and call it evil, but in reality, it's what it is. It's like a system for accessing those things. We call it the art of correspondences, and just like the brother said earlier, everything is interconnected. That's what our whole idea is too, is that everything is interconnected, and it's interconnected in certain ways. And and you use, by understanding those ways, you can access them and change them for the better. So it's like with the astrological system, what you would have found in a lot of medieval magic books is they would take those names that are in the Book of Enoch and connect them to the planets that they figured connected to, and and then say, okay, pray to this deity and do this ritual with these colors and these objects, and that will give you mastery over this particular thing that it rules. So like if it's over swords and armor, then that would be Mars, or whatever the name they're using for Mars is, whatever deity they're connecting it to. And like I say, usually 9 times out of 10, it'll come back to something like the astrological planets. There's an order, there's a system behind it, and it's not evil. It's science. It really is. It's early science, and still to this day is valid. It's just taking materialist scientists a while to catch up with the ancient wisdom.
Well, and in all respect to you, we tend not to delve into science. Science to us is false, and we look at it from a standpoint. It's almost like how you view your gods. We hold our God or our power in the utmost and highest respect, to the point of where it's almost And it's no disrespect to you. It's almost a sacrilege to honor anything other than the Most High. And for us to go into these things, and even the mention of those names, you know, it kind of sends a chill up my spine. So I had to do some prayer just because I mentioned the names in that passage. But the thing we tend to go into when you talked about the fallen angels coming down and sleeping with men, those were the description.
Let me jump in real quick here. All right, the time here is coming down. Brother Kamar, yeah. I just want to get in a few more questions real quick.
All right, go ahead. I'll let you guys go ahead and have it, man. Shalom and praise Ahia.
Thank you, brother man. Thank you for tuning in.
All right,
man. Shalom. Let's next question.
Yeah, Gaja, it's a lot of points the brother brought out. I wish, but we got to keep it moving. He brought out some real good points, and one thing that I wrote down in the midst of his asking questions, maybe you can give me some understanding on this, Steve. You were talking about when it comes to war, the god of Mars being, them doing certain rituals to the god. You heard of this thing under the Roman Empire, and they do this today under the powers in the Western world, the Ides of March.
Oh, yeah, Caesar, beware the Ides of March. Yeah.
And usually they do their wars, even in the Western world today, America, do their wars around March.
Well, I think that has to do with the weather, but I think originally March was named after
Romans.
Mars.
Well, it goes back to ancient Roman, and I got it in front of me, the Ides of March. How they look to do their war at a certain time with their sacrifices to Mars.
And they did, they would time it carefully. They would get omens and auguries and make sure that it was that they were going to win before they went in.
Exactly.
And a lot of times they would disregard those omens and auguries and go in and fight and then lose. So they learned to.
But let's talk about that ritual though before they go to war. Do you think that was good or evil?
Well, I think war is by and large evil because it's using other people as an end. As a means to your end.
Okay. All right. So we coming around. So answer that for me before we bring in the next question. When they go through their rituals for the Ides of March, you think they're asking for something good, or that black or white magic?
Well, okay. I would say that if they were going to defend themselves from an invader, and that's why they were doing it, who was going to come in and slaughter them, then, that was good. But if they were going to go in and conquer somebody...
Well, come on now. We know that the Romans were imperialists, and they would consume the whole. So they were known for going into other countries and destroying and making them part of the board. That's what you were doing.
Yeah, I know. And so 9 times out of 10, I would classify it as a misuse of power. Yeah,
So you would say that was evil, right?
I tend to think imperialist aggression is evil. Yeah, I do agree with that.
All right. So we got to pull it out of you, but okay, who we got next? Who we got next, Gaja?
Let me see. We have the next caller is Brother Rion. Let me get Brother Rion in real quick.
Hi, how you doing? Shalom.
Shalom, brother. Welcome to the 13th. You're live.
Thank you. I just want to say all praises to the Most High, first and foremost. And also, I think y'all kind of went over this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to get in more detail because for the last 2 days, I've been dealing with some other Israelites who are calling on the YHWH, the different names, the Tetragrammaton, and I was trying to explain to them how the YHWH is, different forms of, pagan gods, pretty much. And I wanted to ask, what's his name, John or Steve? What's his name? I'm sorry.
Steve.
Do pagans pay any respect or regard to the golden calf or anything like that, the horned god? And is there any connection to the six-pointed star and to the name like Yahweh, Jehovah? Is that all related, or do they recognize that as related?
Well, no, I wouldn't say they see them as related, but I would say that they see the golden calf as a remnant in the Bible of a much older, and kind of trying to tarnish a much older and more widespread tradition of the bull god, who's the horned god, and represents the spirit of nature, especially of wild nature, untamed by humans, uncontrolled and powerful and outside of the human realm. So, some biblical scholars say that golden calf actually had to do with a conflict between the priests of Moses and the priests of Aaron, but I won't get into that here.
Okay.
But, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and also, so you're saying there's no relation between the calf and the six-pointed star?
No, not that I'm aware of. The six-pointed star, like I say, that's a symbol of the intertwining of the above with the below. How everything as above, so below. They call it the principle that it ties in with that art of correspondence, as I mentioned earlier. That, for instance, you can use a red object, a sharp red object, to magically call the power of the god Mars. I don't know why I keep coming back to Mars, but anyway, that's a pretty clear example of as above, so below. So anyway, that's all I'm saying is that the six-pointed star, the two interlaced triangles, that's a symbol of that principle, which is also, in mathematics, they talk about it as fractal geometry, how it, you can even see that they use that six-pointed star as a symbol for when they first discovered fractal geometry. It was through studying the six-pointed star, mathematicians like 15 or 20 years ago. And you can see that commonly, people even printed on T-shirts, that infinitely replicated six-pointed star. So there's an underlying principle there that's neither good nor evil, but just kind of there, and kind of universal. And people adopt it and use it as a logo. Well, can't stop them from doing that.
Hey, listen, brother Ryan, is that all you have to say?
Well, I just had two more questions to ask just to get a better understanding of, his view on.
Okay, going forward, we got to limit these to 2 minutes per call. I apologize, but we're in the tail end. All right, so we're going to let you go one more. All right, but I would like to say this, and I'm going to let you in. Steve, are you familiar with Moloch?
Yeah.
Okay, so who's that?
Well, some say it was I don't know. I haven't really studied that, but I know that there have been some scholars that have tied it to a Canaanite deity, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
but I think
is it Canaan?
Fires to Moloch. Now that's a very common pagan rite of purification. In Ireland, they used to drive their cattle between two bonfires to purify them of spiritual as well as physical disease, as a magical act. And, and they would do
So Moloch, let me ask a question, because I'm trying to get through these calls. I'm trying to get specific.
Yeah.
Moloch is a term within paganism when it comes to gods. Is that correct?
Not nowadays, no. Nobody that I know.
I'm talking about ancient. I'm talking about what you know of ancient times.
Apparently, yeah. There are very few references. My understanding is there are very few references outside of the Bible to Moloch, so that's one that's kind of been lost. So nobody, the scholars, as far as I know, don't really know a lot about that particular deity.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking that is I'm trying to tie in some of these questions. What he's relating to is where they talk about the star of your god, worshiping the Moloch, when they used to have children go under the fire under ancient paganism. You do know that child sacrifice was part of paganism in ancient times. You do know that.
Yeah, and that is one thing that we definitely object to.
Okay, well let me ask you a question. Is that good or evil?
Well,
that's evil.
I don't know. I mean, I think
talking about child sacrifice. You know that's evil, correct?
Wouldn't want to, I think a lot of people do that in many ways that they just don't realize.
I'm talking about killing your child for God.
I think I would consider that pretty bad thing to do.
All right. So that's what I'm saying. So that's why people out there equate Satan to paganism, because all these things are in ancient paganism. You understand? And So listen to what I'm saying. You can't be surprised if someone sees child sacrifice as part of ancient paganism to say, okay, that must be Satan. That can't be good.
Sure, we're lumping it all together. Yeah, and people just they don't realize that it was
just
even
to get
in
an understanding.
ancient times it was extremely diverse.
But real quick, the star of their god, Moloch, was the god of ancient child sacrifice, and the six-pointed star.
I'm not really sure that passage refers to child sacrifice. It may refer to child.
I can give you the precepts where it tell you with Moloch passing your child under the fire. Because
but
why?
that could be, like I'm saying, that could be like the ancient Celtic thing that the Irish did until very recently, where they would drive their cattle between two sacred fires in order to...
No, this was actually child sacrifice.
Cattle.
This was child sacrifice. Matter of fact, just for the sake of understanding, you research that, but I've already done that. Let me say this real quick. The six-pointed star means the heavenly with the earthy. That was the original premise of the star.
Yeah, that's right.
Going into the ancient fallen angels that dealt with women and brought forth Nephilim of Genesis, the 6th chapter, and which all these things was taught under Enoch, which was brought out earlier. Now, to show you that the Bible have historical content, it's not a fairy tale book if you're reading it in proper content, not like Christians. So what I'm trying to do is merge this understanding so that we can look at the Bible from a different angle altogether. We're not Christians. What we are, you would call us pre-Constantine Christians, before the pagan came in. All right. So who we got next? Because I wanted to put that out there. Yahweh is synonymous with Moloch.
All right. Can you hear me?
And there were sacrifices equated with it.
Shalom. Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Sorry about that. I just have a problems here with my computer. Listen, you know what, Steve, we might have to bring you back on the show again just for a question answer segment. You know, there's so many people here.
The lines are packed, Steve. I mean, let me tell you, this show is international, buddy. You got people from England calling in all over the place.
That's great. I love answering questions, even if I'm not always right. I try to be.
I'm gonna bring in is it Ed? I think Ed is also a pagan. He's been listening, and then I'm gonna hear what Ed has to say. We'll see if we can keep it down to about 2 minutes, and I'm gonna try and bring in brother Xavier to come in as well.
Hey, guys, if you don't mind, let's give the brother that's coming in 5 minutes, because we gave everyone else a lot of time, and then we'll keep it 2 minutes from there, because I know he's probably busting out with things to say. So let's give him 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem. We have Ed. Ed, are you there? Can you hear me?
I am here, sir.
Welcome to the search engine.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank you all for the show tonight and for being so respectful of each other. You had brought up earlier, Steve, or someone brought up the use of sex and ritual. That's known for our listeners as the Great Rite. I am also pagan. I go by Yoan in Circle. And I'm
cool. Yes, that is the Great Rite.
Circle. I live in Irwin, Tennessee, right across the border from you.
I'm sorry, where?
In Irwin, Tennessee, right across the border from you.
That is close
anyway,
by, yep.
to make this short, that's known as the Great Rite. And while I've never witnessed the actual Great Rite in practice, there is a symbolic Great Rite for all those who don't know this, and it's fairly common knowledge in books, wherein the chalice is used as representative of the female, and a unsharpened dual dagger is used, called an athame, as a representation of the male. And something might be said by this union, 2 in 1, one by both, that we ask the ancient ones to bless this wine. The athame is then lowered into the cup, saying something like, as the athame is to the chalice, so the male to the female, and the lover to the beloved. And from their union, worlds were born. The drink is then offered to each other, saying, may you never thirst, and it's also offered to the circle. Then a plate of crackers, cakes, or whatever you have is offered up. Somebody says, body of the God, blessings of the goddess, in this we taste the sweetness of life, may you never hunger. After which everybody is served, and the priest or priestess will say something like, may you never thirst except for knowledge, may you never hunger except for truth. And that is the symbolic great rite of the union of the God and Goddess, or Lord and Lady, as we call them. And I do appreciate your show tonight. I don't know how much time I have left, but you mentioned Samhain, and that is a time of the last harvest. It's a holy day for us. It's also giving thanks to the Lord and Lady for all they've given us throughout the year, which carries us through the winter. And that's about all I have to say, and I want to thank you guys for the show and for discussing things in such an open and forthright manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. Yeah, that was
You're welcome.
very much for bringing up those. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Steve. I'm sorry he got off so quick. I was trying to take my mute off because I wanted to speak to Ed. Let me ask
I'm
you,
still here.
Steve. Thank you. Oh, he said, okay, good. Let me ask you, do you all have acting Christians who are part of a Christian church practicing within your union sometimes? Like active Christians?
Very occasionally, someone will come along who's curious and open-minded enough to see what we're all about.
But you don't have a Christian that goes to church and then come and deal with what y'all dealing with?
We usually don't. It would kind of be, I think, in my own, this is just my opinion, that all spiritual paths lead to the same center at some point. But it would kind of be against
believe me, y'all definitely are meeting at the same point, especially on Christmas.
Right. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not likely that a Christian would be a practicing Christian and also be a practicing pagan at the same time.
But they are practicing pagan. They just don't know it.
Okay. I can see where you're coming from because I've listened to the entire discussion on that, and it's true that a lot of pre-Christian customs were indeed pagan with many gods, goddesses, etc.
Let me come in real quick. We're down to 10 minutes for the show. I just wanted to ask you, Ed, how did you hear about the show?
Actually, one of my friends on Facebook put it on that Steve was going to be on, and I had heard of Covenant Open a while before, even though I've never met Steve personally. I know somebody who has, and so I tuned into the show and just to listen to see what was going to be said, and it's been very informative and very nicely done.
All right, man. Cool. Thank you, man. Thank you for calling in. And,
thank you, sir.
We're gonna try and get Steve back in another time so we can go into, like I said, a question answer segment. You know. Okay.
Before you, I have to make a few announcements real quick. First off, I would like to say that our Hebrew and Bible Academy begins this coming Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. We're going to I think we're going to start this one 8 a.m. Eastern. So just look out for your email. Those who are not involved or want to get involved, send an email to gathering@AOL.com. The other point I want to bring out, and this is also I wanted to say our website is up now, gatheringofchristchurch.org. It's up now and it's up and running. You can become members and we're going to add things as we go along. So I got that out of the way. I want to say this, and this is the thing that's and I thank Brother Azariah for reaching out, getting Steve, and getting the guests. He does such a great job, and something else is coming down the pipe with the Brother Azariah. I want to say thank him and thank those out there that allow these shows, and above all, thank the Most High God for allowing us the air we breathe in the spirit to teach this truth. Now, I want to say this too, and this is the part that's really, and it came to my mind. It's like, oh my goodness, here. I grew up a Christian. I grew up. I was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I'm hearing people from the Bible Belt. I'm hearing people, brothers here that are coming on with a Southern accent. And I'm perplexed because mainstream society taught us through media and whatever the case is that all the Europeans that came over was good old European Christians. You understand? And
yeah,
as far as I can see, what I'm hearing here, paganism has always been here.
In fact, we have a big page on our website about Thomas Morton, the pagan pilgrim, who...
the pagan pilgrim, man, look at that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that they're hiding the paganism roots that came over from Europe?
Well, because it's a threat to their control and power, just like he was. And they ended up, the Puritan pilgrims ended up persecuting him and cutting down the maypole he'd erected in what's now called Wollaston, Massachusetts, right up from I think the Massachusetts Bay Colony, if I've got that right. And and the whole story, like I say, the whole story's on our website, oldandwild.org.
Okay. All right.
It's pretty fascinating, and it's something that Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote a story about, but nobody else.
Let me come in real quick, please.
Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. We're down to the final 6 minutes of the show. Last week we got cut off due to the time. I want to say thank you to everyone who was phoned in, and I'm asking Steve. I'm gonna see if we can. Steve. I'm gonna see if we can arrange another show where you can come in. I definitely would like these brothers and sisters to get their questions answered and to make the point. I don't know. Would you be able to come on maybe say next week or something again after that? We'll speak to you on the background of the show.
Hey, Gocc.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it possible that he could just come in the first hour of the next show, just so they can get their questions asked for him? Because I apologize for all of those that I know everyone got their questions lined up. So can you just come on for 1 hour next week just to answer questions? We're not going to go into no dialogue because I guess they can listen to the show and get their questions together. In the first hour, we're going to open it up. Just take it from here and answer questions for 1 hour.
I probably could. Yeah, I'd have to double check with that, but yeah, I'll tentatively say yes.
Okay. All right.
And I guess I can. Can be in contact with you guys through Azariah or.
Okay, that's great. And what we'll do is we'll try to have a Christian pastor on that we can bring it all together.
That would be great. Yeah, I'll let our folks know about that. They'll.
How about that?
I actually did send out some publicity about this show, so that's and I'm planning to put an archive of it on our website so that people can hear it, and and I'll put a link back to your to the website you just mentioned also.
Okay, great.
So,
I know it's not too often you talk with people that disagree with you, but respectfully in peace. Christ
that's
says
the most productive thing, I think that's how I think truth comes out from, a whole bunch of people debating and disagreeing peacefully. And what that truth is may not be any one person to say, but we all have our different opinions about it, but the important thing is that we're expressing them peacefully with each other instead of with bullets and bombs,
Exactly. And like Christ said, our Lord Yeshua said, "And much life within you, be at peace with all men." You understand? So that's the bottom line. You understand? And what a great dialogue tonight. I thank you for coming on. And how many more minutes we have here?
I think we're down to about the final 5 minutes.
You know what? 5 minutes. Let's give someone else 2 minutes, real quick. Come on.
All right. But I'm gonna bring in brother Terrell real fast.
All right, man. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You wanna put the question real quick, and then I'll just bring someone else.
Shalom. What I wanted to know is because I've been listening, and this has been great. You know what I'm saying? I'm also a Hebrew, and I just came into this truth not too long ago. And for this guy, Steve, to be saying these things, you know, it's great because he's put a new perspective on everything for me. So I also want to say, as I watch TV, you know, I see music videos, I see BT movies and everything, and you notice that they always have this pyramid with the eye, people throwing up these horns, and I want to know, is that also of pagan origin? I would like to hear an answer from you and also the fellow Hebrew. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, sir, but I would also like to hear an answer from both of you guys because I see this every day, and it's affecting me because I really want to know what's the origin of this and what's the point. So if you guys can expand on that, that would be a great help to me. Thank you.
It represents, the eye in the pyramid represents the all-seeing eye of providence, and it was originally when the Great Seal was being designed, Great Seal of the United States.
Right.
The artist, who was not a Mason, but he did adopt a Masonic symbol, and because George Washington had attributed the victory of their victory in the Revolutionary War to Providence. You know, that was the word he used. And he said, you know, there's just a lot of times where it's by sheer providence that we won. And, you know, so that's what he was trying to symbolize. And it represents, you know, the eye of conscience, really, that sees everything you do. I mean, that universal conscience that we all share that's kind of inborn in us, but, you know, that knows when we're doing good or evil, you know. And that's the way the Masons interpret it.
Okay. Very interesting. So the brother,
it's not the Illuminati.
you know, I've been hearing this Illuminati, and it's become too big. You know, when anything becomes too big to me, I tend to stay away from it because it's propaganda. So I would like to know from the brother side, from the Hebrew side of things, what do you think about that?
Brother, listen, time's about to end on us. So, Brother Terrell,
I'll answer that next week.
Okay.
You stay tuned next week, same time, and I'll pick up the answer.
Okay.
All right. With that, everybody, the conversation is peace. And we say shalom to all the people tuned in, all right? One love next week, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. in the UK, all right? With that, one love, man. Thank you. Shalom.
Thank you. Blessed be.
And we shouldn't act as if we don't.